Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man JRich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. GMGP, baby. It is Monday, October the 16th, 2023. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G. And you know I appreciate you being in the damn building bright and early, 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you're on the West Coast, damn, Jay, it's 5 a.m., but people has tapped in with us for this recap of fantasy football stuff over the past weekend. Let's see who we got in the damn building. My man Robert in the building. What's going down with you, Robert? Robert in the building. Nick, Rowe, Hunter Joe Green, Doak Walker, Ty DeClaire, Richie in the building, Patrick Price, my girl Gretchen, how you doing this morning? Peter in the building. Got a big crew in the building. Already over 100 in the damn stream. Hit the doggone like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like. Comment below, let us know what you're thinking. Yes, sir. JRich, cut the music, cut the music, cut the music, cut the music, cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it. Appreciate y'all being in the building, man. Week 6 NFL, almost in the books. It was it was an interesting day of football, to say the least. But you know what, man? The Dallas Cowboys are coming to save us all tonight for some good football. We got a good game on tap for tonight. Look at, he's in the back laughing again. The last time he laughed hysterically like this, it did not end well for JRich. But the Cowboys and the Chargers are on tap for tonight. We got to talk about the Giants trying to put foot in the Bills. Got to talk about Tua and the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, 186 yards away from 1,000 yards, JRich. Did you know that? He's 186 yards away from 1,000 yards on the season. It is week 6. Tyreek Hill is on another planet. And yes, we will talk about those Cleveland Browns. But before we do that, all the housekeeping, got to get all of that out of the way. Make sure you look at all the links inside the description. If they're not there, we'll put them there at the end of the show. Subscribe to the Destination Devy podcast feed. Scott Connor dropped a new podcast, Destination Dynasty, this morning. We got the Overreaction Pod. Tomorrow, Gene and Ike are off the line. We've got Gump and Derek, College Football Saturdays, Jeff Mueller's Injury Pod. And make sure you check out his injury article over on DestinationDevy.com. Got a lot of good stuff dropping for y'all this week and some very cool things, some new tools that we'll be launching on the website very, very soon. But JRich, how you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I thought you'd be a little bit more excited after seeing the Niners lose. You know, I think it's. No. I feel like you're almost curbing your excitement a bit because the Cowboys still have to play tonight. So big game, right? You know, they lost the game to the Niners last week, but this week they're back in SoFi. So you're excited. Yeah. The NFL is excited. Mm-hmm. Hopefully a good game. Some revenge. Kellen Moore versus his former team.
I don't know about
Dan Quinn versus Kellen Moore. Big narrative. I don't know. I'm excited for it. And people who aren't watching this show, Ray hooked me up with this fresh DD sweater. Yeah, I'm wearing the DD sweater. You got me. I'll move the mic out of the way later on so people can see the full effect. But thank you, Ray, for that. Yeah, feeling good, man. Feeling good. You know, Mac Jones looking better than he did last week. We'll see.
We'll talk, Mac. We'll talk, Mac. I said this last week and I didn't do it. I really want to talk some college football because we got to see Bo Nix, Michael Penix this weekend. Caleb Williams played his worst game as a collegiate player ever. It was not a good game for USC and Caleb Williams. And Deion Sanders and Coach Prime, biggest blown lead in Colorado football history, up 29-0 at half. And Travis Hunter did not play well on the defensive side of the ball, but he played awesome offensively. But I got to do something for college. I may need to just start doing that stuff on Saturday, rapid instant reaction. But, Jay, we have takeaways from every single game on the slate. It's a big show. We got to get into it, so let's not play around. Let's get into the news, the notes. I'm looking at the show sheet, and the injury list is...
It's a big one this week. I need some time.
Okay, let me let you get to it, and then I'll give you my thoughts and feelings about all of this. So let's go. Injury news and updates. What we got, Jay?
Okay, people, deep breath. Let's start off with some O-line injuries. Trent Williams did suffer an ankle injury. He was rolled up on by a teammate in this Cleveland Niners game. He did return to the game. He talked about it after the fact, saying he wanted to come back in because he knows that 95 is on the other side, but he was in a walking boot and was taped up. But the fact that he returned is a good sign, but we'll see what his prognosis is going forward. As well, Bengals left tackle Orlando Brown suffered a groin injury mid-game against the Seahawks, did not return, but he did tell reporters after the game that he's hoping to be back in week 8 after the week 7 bye for the Bengals. And then Damian Harris had a scary neck injury. We had to go to the hospital, but it was reported that he has mobility in all of his extremities. So hopefully we continue to get more positive updates on that front going forward. Justin Fields needs to get MRI to assess potential ligament damage on his thumb. It was dislocated, and we are expecting right now a lengthy absence. The question is, how lengthy is it going to be? If you can't grip a football, you're probably not going to be playing this week and weeks going forward. I would almost look to similar to what happened with Drew Brees when he got hit. I believe it was by Aaron Donald in the hand when he tore his UCL in his thumb, couldn't play for a few weeks. And even when he did come back, had troubles throwing the ball downfield, gripping the football. That's kind of the injury you're looking at for Fields. Trevor Lawrence suffered a potential MCL meniscus injury, so we'll see what his prognosis is. He does play Thursday night against the Saints, so that's one of the issues for Lawrence. He does say he's fine, though, so he's probably going to play. We'll see if he's limited in terms of his mobility, but obviously in terms of throwing the football, he should be more than fine, and I'm sure they will continue to lean on Travis Etienne. There was concerns during the game this is for Josh Allen when he got x-rays after the game, and Jeff thinks he has a mild AC joint sprain. Every week it seems like someone's spraining their AC joint, so it may limit his throws down the field, but probably not going to limit him in terms of playing each and every week. Ryan Tannehill suffered another potential high ankle sprain, Ray. He may be out for a very long time. So this is the same ankle that he had a tightrope surgery on last season. So we may see him for an extended absence and potentially for the entire season if he does require surgery. As we all know, high ankle sprains are multi-week injuries. And the way that the Titans are going right now, there's literally no reason for him to come back at all. Jimmy Garoppolo left the game with a back injury and was taken to hospital. We don't know exactly what the injury was. Jeff said it could have been to the kidney or as well could have been to the back. We're not sure exactly what it was, but I'm sure we'll get more updates on that. But I think, talking about Jimmy and the precaution for him going to the hospital, probably not going to play this week, but we do need a lot more updates on that because we don't even know what the injury is. Christian McCaffrey suffered rib and oblique injuries and was held out of the game, but based on how he looked on the sidelines, don't expect him to miss any extended time. And if he does, probably just a week or two. Dave Montgomery suffered a rib injury. X-rays were negative, but due to the pain, he may miss a week or two. We'll have to see what his status is, but Jeff is expecting Jahmyr Gibbs to be back this week, so that would be great if we got no Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, because a lot of people are down on Gibbs right now. Kyron Williams suffered a minor ankle sprain, but McVay said he's probably going to be okay. And based on his past history, people seem to believe that McVay has been trustworthy in the past, and Jeff tends to believe him. Debo suffered a potential AC joint sprain as well. This may keep him out for at least a week. This is the same injury that Brandon Ayuk had when he missed a week. What it does is it stops you from being able to extend for catches and as well limit that ability to absorb contact. Can be very painful if you have an AC joint sprain. Garrett Wilson suffered a minor ankle sprain, but both Robert Saleh and Garrett Wilson don't believe it's going to be a long-term thing, probably just something he'll have to deal with slowly. DK Metcalf should be fine, but he is dealing with hip and rib injuries, but returned, played fine, so he should be okay going forward. And then as well, Ray, tonight, Joshua Palmer was a late addition to the injury report this week, so Jeff is not expecting him to play. Late additions to injury reports are typically not great, and I would be making other plans if you do have Palmer in your lineups.
Yeah, so does that mean it's time for some Quentin Johnston? Is QJ going to get some run tonight? I mean,
he should.
No Mike Williams, Josh Palmer's injured. Like, versus Dallas, this should be a game where QJ at least has an opportunity to get it going, right?
Yeah, he should be wheels up. Donald Parham, I think, is back, though, so maybe that hurts him in the red zone. But, yeah, I mean, they don't really have anybody of consequence.
If Donald Parham is taken away from first-rounder Quentin Johnston, that's a big problem for old QJ. But
he's getting all the touchdowns, man.
Listen, man, these injuries, I'm sitting back, and I'm sitting there thinking on Sunday, why the hell do I do this? Why the hell do we even try to play fantasy football? And I'm just thinking, it's football, dude. Like, these guys are going to get hurt every single week. We're trying to, like, why do we torture ourselves? I just want to watch the games and relax and have a good time. And I'm looking up, David Montgomery's got 6 carries for 10 yards. And I'm thinking, what the hell happened? And, next thing you know, rib injury there. Christian McCaffrey on the bench. Where the hell is he at? It's wild, man. It's a brutal sport, and glad to hear that Damian Harris was moving around. The extremities were okay because that was a pretty scary scene, and I know for a lot of people who are fans of the Bills, fans of the game, to watch that again sort of happen with the amulets coming on the field was a little disturbing. Trevor Lawrence, we'll talk about him later. Man, what a tough kid. That dude is a tough quarterback. Say what you want about him, but he will continue to get up and battle. Love seeing that from him. And we will get into your boy Justin Fields here in a little bit, Jay. But it's time to go ahead and get into game one. The Ravens versus the Tennessee Titans. You talked about it a little bit with Ryan Tannehill going down with the injury, and we saw a little bit of Malik Willis in that game, Jay. Going into this game, we talked about Lamar Jackson, one of the top storylines. You also talked about Tajay Spears. And I thought Lamar played. I thought he played fine, man. I thought he played a good game for the Ravens. They got it done. Running game, it's tough with Gus Edwards, right? They're trying to manufacture runs. Lamar Jackson led the team in rushing. He did his thing. And what was good to see was Zay Flowers hold on to the ball at least early on. Odell Beckham had a big catch in that game. Mark Andrews started off a little slow, but finally got him involved in the offense. It just feels like they just need somebody else, man. I don't know what it is with Rashad Bateman. It feels like they just need something else. It feels like they are one of the better teams in the NFL. Dirty, nasty late hit by Kyle Hamilton, too. I just want to say that. Yeah. But it just feels like they just need a little more firepower offensively to truly compete. But I like what the Ravens are doing. 8:30 a.m. game in London. I know that's got to be tough on the players, and they found a way to get it done because Derrick Henry, after a slow start, eventually started to turn that thing around and was running very tough, man. One of the things that I had as one of the top takeaways is Derrick Henry is still very good, Jay. And with Ryan Tannehill going down now, do you think this makes it any more likely that Tennessee looks to liquidate some of these assets, whether that be a Derrick Henry, I don't know, Kevin Byard? I don't know what his contract situation is, or I don't even want to speculate on that. But is there any possibility that Mike Vrabel finally just says, okay, we know he doesn't like Treylon Burks, he doesn't like Malik Willis, probably doesn't like Will Levis. Do you think this is just the point at 2-4? What do you think Tennessee does? Is Derrick Henry finishing the season on this team, or are they going to try to make a move?
I think he's probably going to stay on the team. It doesn't seem like Vrabel is comfortable with the whole idea of tanking right now. And the GM has as well come out and said that they have no intention of tanking. You know, whether they have Ryan Tannehill or not, I think this division is still competitive. I think we're excited when we see from the Jaguars the past 2 weeks because there was a time when we weren't so sure, right? They lost to Kansas City. We're like, okay, fine. But then they lost to Houston, and we weren't so sure. They've come back with back-to-back wins against Buffalo and then obviously won this week as well. So they are looking better, probably going to lead the division once again. The Colts are on the way down. And the Tennessee Titans, as you mentioned, kind of in limbo at 2-4. I think the more concerning part for me is that whether Ryan Tannehill is a quarterback or not, the passing game has been so inconsistent. Sometimes they're fine and sometimes they're just good enough. But like this week, they completely struggled. Tannehill was running for his life. It was crazy. I don't even know if you noticed this, but Tajay Spears was the leading receiver for the team. Yes. In his one catch late in the game, he was the leading receiver, which is insane. I don't know what Tennessee does, but I don't think they tank. I think Derrick Henry probably finishes up the season. I mean, they got 2 more weeks to figure it out, right? I mean, are they going to figure it out in 2 weeks? Probably not, but that's when the trade deadline is. 2 weeks from now, trade deadline's going to be here, and they have to make a decision as to what they're going to do. Do they move Henry? Sure, but what do they get? A 5th? A 6th, maybe? It's better than nothing, I suppose, but I think the rest of the pieces will probably remain intact, and Tennessee will probably continue to try and win games. But outside of that, I don't see much changing for them. Do you see anything differently, though, in Tennessee right now?
I have no idea what they're going to do, man. Like, I honestly, I'm looking at this team. I'm watching the game. It's Nick Westbrook-Akine. It's Kyle Phillips. You know, Treylon Burks is still injured.
No Treylon,
DeAndre Hopkins is, and I think Hopkins is fine, honestly. I think he's fine. It's just the quality of play at the quarterback position. You see Ryan Tannehill, 8 for 16 for 76 yards prior to going out. You put in Malik Willis, and they were still somehow in this game. It just seems very difficult for Tennessee to try to overcome Ryan Tannehill not being here, the deficiencies of talent on the offensive side of the ball, the O-line banged up. This just feels like a team hanging on by a thread in a division in the AFC South, Jay, where Houston, they look better than Tennessee. The Jacksonville Jaguars better than Tennessee. Hell, the Indianapolis Colts, I know Gardner Minshew was just lofting picks left and right on Sunday, but I find it very difficult to believe that Tennessee is going to be able to rebound for this. So whether it's a 5th or a 6th rounder, maybe they should explore a potential Derrick Henry move just to free the king and let him be great somewhere else. I mean, Philadelphia looked like they needed a running back yesterday, Jay. Zay Flowers is a must-start at this point. I get it. He's a rookie. He's probably going to drop some passes because all damn receivers drop passes. I saw Devontae Smith drop one wide open in the middle of the field. but he's a weekly must start. And that's what we kind of talked about. I said Zay Flowers, a must start from this point forward. Once again, led the team in targets. I'm all in on Zay Flowers. And I understand the ADOT's not that high, but this is a very dynamic player, very shifty player, very explosive player. So for me, Zay Flowers, week in, week out, you got to start him. Fire him up. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Zay a lot, and finally got in the end zone, right? I brought up that stat about him and Chris Godwin, the only players with 7+ red zone targets who didn't score touchdowns, and finally, what do you know? Zay Flowers makes it to the end zone, so that was great to see for him get his first touchdown, even though it was in London. Hopefully he can score in Baltimore, but as you mentioned, was leading target getter. I think the most interesting stat from this game that I forget who posted on Twitter, but we actually saw OBJ and Rashad Bateman splitting drives, right? So they were alternating drives, which was interesting because that's not something that you always catch when you're watching a game. And so someone picked that up, talked about it. And so you basically have Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers as the two leading guys. And especially in 1 and 2 wide receiver sets, Zay Flowers was in every single one. And then they were splitting, whether it was OBJ or Rashad Bateman. Is that due to injury? Is there other reasons they're doing that? I don't really care. Zay Flowers is playing a ton of snaps and seeing a ton of volume. Fire him up each and every week. And Mark Andrews with 4 for 69 was pretty good as well. But Ray, I think my question for you really is Lamar Jackson. How'd you feel about him? I think the issue with this Ravens offense is Todd Monken. They could have had a lot more points, especially early in the game. They chose to run it in the red zone against Tennessee's great run D. If they threw it, they probably would have found more success early on and probably put this game out of hand early. Ultimately, they did let them back in the game, and that was a product of Tennessee being good and Baltimore being bad. But how did you feel about Lamar Jackson in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he played well. You see the rushing attempts, and this is what I'm talking about. This is how he gets the offense going. You got to utilize your legs, and I understand the risks that you put your quarterback in when you run the ball, but this offense needs him to do it. I thought Justice Hill played well. Your boy Tajay Spears didn't get a lot going on the ground, didn't get a lot of opportunity on the ground, but I thought he was okay. So my final question, Mark, from this game, Jay, Malik Willis is named the starter next week. If that's the case, if Malik Willis goes into next week as the starter, is there any interest that you have in rostering Malik Willis, playing Malik Willis, hoping that he can run around, like any interest at all in Malik Willis?
Absolutely not. Fire up that Atlanta Falcons defense because he will probably throw 2 or 3 picks. And for anyone who isn't aware, he only completed 4 passes and took 4 sacks. So yeah, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Malik Willis. I hope he's improved, right? Because what we saw last year was pretty bad, especially even for a rookie quarterback. It was pretty bad. But we'll see. I'm not really sure exactly what we're going to get from Malik Willis. Hopefully some improvement. But with the weapons he has, he's got Derrick Henry. Hopefully he uses Tajay Spears. But outside of that, if Burks isn't back, he's got Hopkins, which is great. But clearly it's not enough to actually win in this division. I don't think they do very well against a Falcons team that didn't play great this week, but I think has a pretty good defense overall.
Well, Jay, that's actually a great segue because we need to get into that game. Let's get into that Falcons game. The Washington Commanders and the Atlanta Falcons had a game, and it was an interesting one. Desmond Ridder I thought he played great in the first half. We're pumping him up in the Discord. Man, Desmond Ridder, look at him playing well. And second half, shit fell off the rails. I mean, 3 interceptions in the second half. I think he threw one when they were at the 1-yard line, the 5-yard line, right at the goal line. Just threw it directly to the damn defensive back. But the Commanders, they got the job done, man. What'd they win by? Was it 24-16?
24-16.
24-16. And my biggest takeaway, man, Jay, and going into this game, one of the things that we had as this top storyline was Desmond Ridder, coming off a 300-yard performance. Could he continue that? And again, for 2 quarters, it did. And then for 2 quarters, absolutely, he did not. And you also talked about the quarterback, Sam Howell. How would he play? And can we count on him consistently moving forward? Jay, I'll just say this, man. I don't know if Sam Howell is the Washington Commanders quarterback of the future. Like, you give him a 5-year contract and all this stuff, 200. I don't know about any of that. But I've seen enough from him to say that I think that they could at least go into next year, try it again with Sam Howell to see. Like, he has impressed me. Yes, he's going to go out there and get sacked like Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he and Shedeur they are hand in glove for taking sacks in games. But, man, when you need a big-time throw, getting Terry McLaurin the ball in this game, moving around in the pocket, taking hits, battling back. I know the stat line wasn't big, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a litany of sacks. Again, we've got to work on that, Sam Howell. But I've seen enough from this kid through 6 weeks to say, I think Washington might have a little something on their hands with Howell. I don't want to go all the way and be like a franchise changer, franchise quarterback, but in this league where Jay, I'm looking at the projected top 16 picks in the NFL draft. And I think there are maybe 3 teams that just don't need a quarterback. And when I say need, I mean there's probably like 3 teams. The Houston Texans don't need a quarterback. The Saints, we can debate it, but I'll say they don't need a quarterback. They maybe can use an upgrade, but they don't need a quarterback upgrade. And there was one other team inside that top 16 that was pretty solid. Oh, the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, Indy, right.
But outside of that, I mean, I don't know, Jay. It looks pretty quarterback needy across the board. So when we're looking at Washington, I think Sam Howell has done enough, man, to at least earn an opportunity to be that team's long-term starter in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've been kind of noticing and at least taking note of recently, because I don't know exactly what the pulse is in the dynasty community, but it doesn't seem like Sam Howell gets a ton of love in terms of what he's actually been doing on the field, right? We came into this week, I talked about how he scored 15-plus points in 4 or 5 weeks this season. Of course, the only week he didn't was against Buffalo. This week, he comes out, throws 3 touchdowns on limited volume, which was probably the most surprising part of all. 14 for 23, 151. And, 3 touchdowns aside, that's a Desmond Ridder stat line. We don't expect Sam Howell to come out here, dominate a game on both sides of the ball for Washington, and only throw the ball 23 times. Then you go Desmond Ridder on the other side, 28 for 47, 307, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. These are 2 guys I talked about on my podcast as probably players that you could buy and have as QB2s, QB3s for an inexpensive price that are probably going to be fine going forward. Ridder doesn't have a great rushing floor, even though, he is mobile. He hasn't run a ton, but can score a rushing touchdown. And for whatever reason, the volume is just going through the roof right now for Ridder. They continue to throw the ball more and more, getting the ball to his weapons. And even though he threw 3 picks, if your league doesn't penalize interceptions too badly, he's still going to be fine if he's throwing for 300 yards.
He was a top 12 quarterback on the week. I think McDowell said he was top 10 based on the week, even with 3 interceptions.
And so him and Howell are 2 guys that I think are still very attainable on teams. And so you look at both these guys, I think they were both played well. You talk about Howell taking a ton of sacks, man, but he just makes the throws. And I think the biggest story, Ray, coming into this game was target consolidation. Are we ever going to see it in Washington? We saw 11 for Terry McLaurin, which was huge. 4 for Curtis Samuel. Next highest target getter was Brian Robinson with 2. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to happen every week, but it was definitely encouraging to see from a team that's been spreading it around like crazy. It seems like maybe the criticism was heard by the dynasty community and Eric Bieniemy. I don't know, but seeing Terry McLaurin get 11 targets is definitely encouraging, and Sam Howell played a pretty good game. The 3 touchdowns is huge, limited volume, but he was pretty good overall as well.
Yeah, the target consolidation for the Commanders, and again, limited volume, but Jahan Dotson's 1 target was a beautiful dime from Sam Howell that Jahan Dotson just dropped. Yeah. But 11 targets for McLaurin, 6 for 81. You'll take that, right? You'll take those 14 points. The other pass catchers, man, on the other side of the ball, Drake London, Jay, is starting to he's starting to get in the rhythm, man. He's playing like that top wide receiver pick from 2022. And it's starting with Arthur Smith opening up the offense a little bit, giving Drake London opportunities. Desmond Ridder just kind of throwing it up there. F it, Drake London's down there somewhere. And it worked out well one time and didn't work out well a couple of other times. But Drake London, moving forward, there's been a lot of dissension about Drizzy in the dynasty community, Jay. But how you feeling about Drake London right now?
I feel pretty good, right? I think there's no better cure than the Washington defense for wide receivers right now, right? And I think that's the biggest takeaway is when you look at these teams and you say, well, where are they headed? I mean, next week he's got the Bucs, then he's got the Titans, Vikings, Cardinals, Saints. Like, schedule is not bad for Drake London, and I think the increase in volume is good for him. I think you want to probably start him every week. I think that Washington right now is probably one of the best matchups in the NFL for wide receivers, so make sure you start your wide receivers against them. But I'm excited for Drake, right? He had a slow start. Ridder had a slow start. But if this volume continues to be good, then I see no reason why they can't be just fine. Jam Ram is saying, does Ridder survive with his horrible picks? That's an interesting question. But, they're still 3-3, second in the South. So they're competitive. And I think as long as they're competitive, they're probably going to continue throwing Desmond Ridder out there. Like you mentioned, he had a good first half, bad second half, but those things happen, right? I'm not expecting Ridder to look good every single week. He needs to take care of the ball, but he's not a guy we expect to throw the ball 47 times. And when we talk about players like him, like Ryan Tannehill, when you increase that volume, turnover-worthy plays and things like that tend to go up. So we're not expecting anything different from Ridder. It's just about how do they manage the game. I think my biggest concern, Ray, and you don't have this on the show sheet, but are you concerned about Bijan Robinson? I was going to bring it up. Production is not where it needs to be right now for fantasy managers. And I think that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, Jay, this is a good call. I wanted to bring this up because if this were anybody else, people would be freaking out. Now, it's tough because you watch it. It's almost similar to Jahmyr Gibbs. You watch these guys and you're like, they're so talented. Just give them the ball. But in this game, Tyler Algier did run the ball well. They were opening up lanes. Yeah, it's just, yes, I continue to do this every week. So rankings are on the website, destinationdevy.com. I do weekly rankings. Yep. And every week when we put those rankings in, we use the Fantasy Pros ranking engine. Bijan Robinson every week, top 5 running back. And I think we just do that. I don't know if that should be the case moving forward anymore. I don't think you could just say with certainty that he's going to be a top 5 running back week in and week out. Maybe it's matchup dependent. They're running Algier a lot. He's out there more than we probably want him to be out there. And Atlanta is opening up the offense a little bit more with Ritter. And it was just an interesting game because the first half, very well. Second half, he didn't play well. Kyle Pitts, back-to-back positive performances for Kyle Pitts, Jay. Got in the end zone. I can't remember the last time Kyle Pitts scored a damn touchdown. He got in the end zone. And then somehow quietly, Jonnu Smith was also a person who scored a touchdown as well. So he continued his stellar performance in this complimentary tight end 2-1B role with Kyle Pitts, Jay. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Bijan?
I am concerned, Ray. Like, for what you drafted him for, he's not going to deliver on that. He has no rushing touchdowns this season, which is already a bit of a problem. He's got 2 through the air, and he's got 200 receiving yards almost. But, I mean, 400 rushing yards and 80 carries. He hasn't had a game since that since the Green Bay performance where he had 19 carries for 124. I mean, he's never had more than 14 carries in a game, which is fine for a lot of guys, but probably not so much for Bijan Robinson based on where you drafted him. And this was my biggest concern coming in, is that we knew that Algier was going to be involved. It was just how much can Bijan get in terms of touchdowns and how much can he get in the receiving game. Now, the receiving game has been great. We talked about how he's one of the leading target getters in the NFL in terms of running back targets. But if he's not doing that much on the ground to where he only has 400 yards, which is fine, but no touchdowns, that's a bit of a problem right now. And I think the way this Atlanta offense is trending more to a pass-heavy approach, hopefully that translates to more touchdowns for the team, but it hasn't quite yet. And so I'm a little bit concerned about Bijan going forward. You know, the long-term value will it be? But is he going to be this elite dynasty asset on a team that isn't scoring a ton of points? That's kind of the biggest question right now.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough, but you still got to bet on the talent. He's an awesome player. It's unfortunate that he's not getting the type of run that we kind of want him to see, kind of want him to have. But I do think that it's coming, Jay. Like Coach Prime said, it is coming, my friend. So let's move on to the next game, Jay. And we actually have some
clip.
We have something here. Let's see what we got for this one. Browns, Frisco coming off of that big win versus Dallas. Could this be a trap game for San Francisco? Could it be a trap game for The reason why I asked this, listen. The reason why I asked this is Cleveland's got a good defense. They're on the road. They just won a big game. Could this be a trap game for the Niners?
No. What?
Could it be a trap game for the Niners? A trap
game for the Niners?
Could it be?
This spread before the Dallas game was like 2 points, and now it's all the way up to like 11.5. There's no way this is a trap game. They're going to...
JRich.
Yes,
sir. The trap game. Could it be a trap game for San Francisco?
I didn't think so. This is the best team in football, right? What's going on, right? But I mean, credit to you.
I tried to have a conversation.
You threw it into the universe, and I slapped you in the face with it.
I tried to just have a conversation because you see this in sports. You see it. Cleveland's defense is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Right now, statistically, they are the best defense in the NFL. On the road after a big win where everybody was hyped up for, it's the makings of a trap game. And Cleveland went out there with P.J. Walker and out-physicaled San Francisco for majority of that game. That defensive front, that defense from Cleveland just bullied them left and right. Yeah. Brock Purdy's worst game, and then when they needed it, he delivered. But San Francisco had a bad game. Ayuk was dropping passes left and right. McCaffrey gets banged up. But yes, trap game, man. This is what you see happen sometimes, and I just wanted to have the conversation about it, Jay. And you weren't really having it. So let's get into the top takeaways from this game. Browns defense is legit, Jay. Browns defense is very, very legit, and it makes me wonder what this team could potentially do if Deshaun Watson can come back and play like Deshaun Watson, which I don't have high hope for, but. Just what were your thoughts from this game? Let's go start with the San Francisco side of the ball. Brock Purdy, the rushing attack, the receivers. Where are you at with this one, man?
I think that, for them, it's just a really bad matchup because when you look at this team, right, they lost Debo, which is fine. Debo is a big part of it, but the Browns defense played man coverage on 72% of plays, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, the NFL is a zone league. They don't play a ton of man, but Jim Schwartz is like, you know what? F it. We're playing man against this team. We're going to rush the passer. We're going to get after Brock Purdy. And they had a ton of success. Brock Purdy, 12 for 27, 125, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. As you mentioned, did do what he had to do when it mattered, got them within pretty reasonable field goal range, even considering the conditions. Unfortunately, they couldn't make the kick, but that happens. But Brandon Ayuk is their man beater. And as you mentioned, he didn't have his best game, and that may be part of the reason why they lost. But to your point, the Browns did play phenomenally. You can't take anything away from them. They got after the quarterback. As I mentioned, played man on 72% of passes. And this season, Ray, the QBR, when the Cleveland Browns play man for the opposing quarterback, is like 5.7 or some absurdly low number. They just play so well right now. Jim Schwartz has them playing at an unreal level. You talk about when they have Deshaun Watson back. Of course, they are competitive. But credit to PJ Walker, man. He played pretty well in this game. He did throw 2 picks. But he played better than Brock Purdy, right? He helped move the ball.
Yeah,
he did his thing out there. First, we didn't expect anything from him against this defense. And I thought he played pretty well considering the circumstances.
Again, I will beg to differ on him playing well. He made some throws when he needed to, and he almost threw the game away literally at the goal line when they were just trying to get in field goal range. They were already in field goal range, and he even was like, damn, it was very close to 3 interceptions and a game-losing interception, but they did lose to Phillip Walker. And it just, I don't think I feel any differently about the 49ers team in general. I still think they are the best team in the NFL.
Good loss.
I think they're the best team in the NFL. I wouldn't call it a good loss, but I think it was one of those humbling losses. Like, damn, we went out here on the road and got beat by a Phillip Walker-led Browns team. Looking at this Browns team play, Jay, the running game was working. Kareem Hunt looked like old Kareem Hunt to me. Jerome Ford had some big runs in this matchup. Other side of the ball, you talked about it in the news and notes with the injuries. Christian McCaffrey, little oblique injury, but Jordan Mason played well. And I wonder how many people are going to blow the fab wad for Jordan Mason this week. I probably would not do that, but Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, Christian McCaffrey, the running game, I thought those guys versus tough defenses, they played well. They did about as good as they could do versus both of these fronts. Fred Warner had a good game on the San Francisco side of the ball. And yeah, we talked about it. Ayuk, 4 for 10, had 10 targets in this one and just could not hold on to the ball. But in that final drive, had a couple of big plays, getting them in field goal range, and the field goal kicker missed the damn ball. So for as bad as Brock Purdy played in this game, for as bad as San Francisco played, and it's so interesting watching them play and how little George Kittle does in this offense, man. That 3-catch, 3-touchdown game, I mean, he is just a blocker out there, Jay. 2 targets, 1 yard for George Kittle.
Insane.
It's tough, right? Amari Cooper thought he played fine. He had some crazy catches, nice catches, good run after the catch for Amari Cooper. My biggest question to you is, Deshaun Watson, reports are he's going to be able to go next week potentially. What do you think the outcome or outlook for this offense is with Deshaun Watson at the helm? It seems like they have no idea how to use Elijah Moore. All they do is throw him screens and hand him the ball out of the backfield. David Njoku's out there running around, catching passes, had a nice touchdown catch called back in that matchup. But with Deshaun Watson, Jay, I'm going to keep Trey Cut just to look at where he's at. I don't know any of these players. Let's just see where Watson is. Down here, QB 17 and falling. Him, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, all in the same cluster field. And what do you think, though, Jay? What do you think about this offense with Watson back?
I mean, I like the offense better with Watson. And Ray, feel free to call me a homer, a truther, whatever. But this offense really does feel like it's missing the downfield threat of Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's basically like retired on offense. Like he's out there, but he never gets the ball. And it makes me wonder why, because he had a lot of success with Watson last year. And yes, that was with Amari Cooper, banged up in the lineup, whatever, and obviously seeing a lot of top coverage. But Cooper's doing great. If they had DPJ, and as you mentioned, like 7 targets to Elijah Moore that only resulted in 19 yards. Yeah, the weather was what it was, and you're not going to see a ton of downfield from Elijah Moore anyways, but you need something from DPJ to help Amari Cooper out, to free him up a little bit, to help out Elijah Moore, because you don't have another threat on offense. Njoku was okay and has been pretty good this season, but I feel like this offense needs more, and I feel like they have it on the team. They just aren't utilizing him for whatever reason, so it's definitely concerning. I think that Watson elevates the team if he's playing well, but to be fair to to like Watson. He hasn't played well. So we do need to see more from him, need to see more from the offense. I think there's a lot of things that could trouble this team right now. And I think the more concerning part is this division is still up for grabs, right? The Ravens aren't playing.
Browns, Frisco coming off of that big win versus Dallas. I wasn't trying to put that back up. I was
okay.
I was not trying to put that back
Salt
up.
in the wound.
I promise you. But yes, continue. Watson's not playing well. You
So,
feel like they need a downfield threat.
Can they do anything? Like, their offense is terrible. This division is kind of a shit show right now. So I'm curious what they can do. But with Watson back, hopefully fully healthy, they can at least contend and hopefully make the playoffs.
Dude, my wife has turned the heat on. It is a brisk 45 degrees in Dallas right now, and it is burning up, Jay. It is burning up in here. But
see, Ray, what you got to do? You got to close the vent. Because I got the same issue, right? We're in here, lights on, cameras, headphones. Like, it gets hot, man. In here.
It is hot.
You got to close the vent, man.
It is
Keep
hot.
That heat out of there.
All right. Well, let's pivot to a Texas game and the Houston Texans game. Let's pivot to the Houston Texans game. Houston Texans, New Orleans Saints. The Texans. Jay, is it too early to just say the Texans are a good football team? I just want to say that the Texans are a good football team, man. This is a solid team. They're led by their young quarterback, C.J. Stroud. And I'm loving what DeMeco Ryans is doing with this defense, with this offense. The Saints, biggest takeaways from me from this matchup, Jay, is if you are looking for a bell cow type running back that's just going to get a whole bunch of work and you don't know how it's going to play out, but he's going to get all the work, look no further than New Orleans Saints, Alvin Kamara, because they will just continue to load him up with touches left and right, out of the backfield. They do it, handing him the ball. We all want Kendre Miller to be a thing and maybe sometime down the line. But Alvin Kamara, another 19 rush attempts in this matchup. You look at the other ball carriers in this one. Rashid Shaheed got some stuff, but it wasn't much there. And then Kendre Miller, 2 carries for -1 yards. And then you go to the receiving game. Chris Olave out there just quietly being very good. And problem is the offense just isn't as efficient as we normally are accustomed to seeing the New Orleans Saints play. But I think Chris Olave played well. He did good from the New Orleans side of the ball. But let's pivot to Houston because that's what I want to talk about. One of the big storylines that we had coming into the game is I asked a question about Nico Collins. Is Nico Collins a true number 1 wide receiver, number 1 target? He was strapped up by A.J. Terrell, and we knew that he'd see some time from Marshawn Lattimore. He had 6 targets in this game. It wasn't C.J. Stroud's best game, but Nico Collins, another 80 yards through the air. So is he a bona fide number 1, Jay? I'm not going to go that far, right? Like, I'm not going to go that far, but right now he's doing a really good job playing the role in which he is, and I like what I'm seeing out of Nico Collins, man.
Yeah, you talked about Stroud and how it wasn't going to be his best game, and we kind of highlighted that as well, right? It was going to be a tough game for Stroud, even though he was at home. He only had 199 yards, but that's okay. Still threw 2 touchdowns, which was not expected from him coming in. He was slated to go under his 1.5 number. Did throw a pick finally, Ray, so that turnover finally came to bite him. I called it last week, ended up being this week against the Saints. But, you talk about Nico Collins, and I think that, even though I don't believe he's going to be a number 1, for the long term, this season he definitely is. Like, this team obviously isn't going to add a number 1 during the year, so you should feel pretty confident about Nico right now. And I think the question we have to ask ourselves come January, come February, is do you trade the Nico Collins hype? Because, by the end of the year, he may have 1,100 yards, 6-7 touchdowns, and a pretty damn good season, looking like a number 1 wide receiver. But to your point, maybe Houston goes out and drafts a wide receiver because there is tons of big body outside, inside wide receivers that may take targets away from Nico overall. And we do like Tank Dell, right, who didn't play in this game, but will be back, obviously. Dalton Schultz had a great game as well, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown, which I didn't expect versus this Saints defense. He played phenomenally, honestly, to complement Nico. But I do think Nico was an interesting conversation because I sold him recently in the league, kind of playing off that hype of what could come, but I think it's only going to build. So I think for as long as Tank Dell is out, and we expect him back this week, I think that Nico will be a number 1 and probably a mid wide receiver 2, I think, throughout the season. And I think you could be pretty confident with that. Singletary was okay. Relative to Dameon Pierce, he was much better. But Stroud was fine.
That was an interesting one. I wanted to talk about that rushing distribution between Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. 13 carries for 34 yards for Pierce, 12 for 58 for Singletary. And it just felt like every time I turned to this game, Jay, I was seeing Devin Singletary on the field and very little Dameon Pierce. He got a goal line touch, couldn't get it in the end zone after a very beastly Dameon Pierce type run. But this was a little concerning for Dameon Pierce. Normally, he was getting 20%, 20 carries, 22 carries, 24 carries in this game. They got Devin Singletary involved. So I wonder if this is trending more to a committee, a split role, or if this was just the game script. But it was a little concerning to see Devin Singletary on the field as much as he was. But to be honest, he looked good. He looked a little more spry than Dameon Pierce in his rush attempts, and maybe that was just the O-line not blocking. But both of those running backs pretty much even split in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this misnomer out here that Devin Singletary is not a good running back when, in Buffalo, he was always fine. He wasn't this great running back, but he was pretty solid. They call him Motor for a reason, right? Like, he got it done in this game against the Saints. So I'm not entirely surprised to see him continue to get work. Pierce is what he is, right? Some weeks he's good, some weeks he's not as good. And I think this offense is going to revolve around Stroud either way. And at this point, I'd say Dameon Pierce is relatively touchdown dependent. So if you are rostering him, you kind of hoping he gets into the end zone. And if he doesn't, we'll see. But I think the biggest concern, Ray, is Taysom Hill getting 8 targets in this game. Derek Carr did throw it 50 times. He did throw. You had 5 receivers over 8 targets. Rashid Shaheed still had 6, but had 85 yards and a touchdown. This offense is just awful. Like, Pete Carmichael is a terrible OC. Like, he is bad. Gotta have it play. Throws it in the flats to Alvin Kamara, and he doesn't make it. Go figure, because he's really not that fast anymore. He can catch passes, but he's not going to run for a ton of yards after the catch. His yards per carry is super low. Like, you mentioned bell cow. He's a bell cow because he gets tons of work, but he doesn't really do a whole lot with it these days, unfortunately. But that's what happens when you're a 27-year-old running back on your second contract. These are the running backs that we don't really want on our rosters, but they are compilers and have zero value going forward.
Looks good to me. I know you're kind of crapping on the older running backs, but he looks fine to me. The offense is a little broken. The O-line, little shaky. Derek Carr did air that thing out. So if you had Derek Carr, you're feeling good because he threw for so many yards, did throw one interception in this game. But I'm fine with Kamara, man. Listen, the Saints are just not very good. Ultimately, they're just not very good. This is not a very good football team. I said they are one of the teams that don't need a quarterback. I don't think they need a quarterback.
They need a quarterback. They just won't get one, I don't think.
I can name 10 teams that need a quarterback worse than New Orleans. Like, could they use an upgrade? Sure. But I think Derek Carr, with any coordinator outside of Pete Carmichael, can probably produce a little bit more. Wasn't a lot to take away from this one. You're going to continue to roll out your Texans. You're still going to start Dameon Pierce. You're firing up Nico Collins. Robert Woods scored a touchdown. Dalton Schultz quietly just scoring some touchdowns over there for Houston. C.J. Stroud had a decent game. New Orleans side of the ball, we talked about a Kamara. Kendre Miller, you can't play him, can't start him. Don't even think about it. People are, man, maybe he can be No, it's Alvin Kamara until further notice. And then Derek Carr, if you've got him, you're going to fire him up as well, Jay. One of the more entertaining games on the slate, in my opinion, was the what's up? What do we got? Well,
you're talking Dolphins and Panthers, right? Did you see the stat about this game?
I did not see the stat about this game. What do we got?
So this game was 42-14, I think was the final score, if I'm remembering that.
Every time you start laughing out of nowhere, I'm just going to get ready to screen record because it's going to just be a nice receipt moving forward. So what was the stat from this game?
So 42-21 was the final score. Carolina was up 14-0. Mm-hmm. They were 14-point dogs, Ray. It was the largest spread that was ever covered from a team that was down 14 points.
Wow.
So for people who aren't understanding what I'm saying.
Say it again. Break it down for the people, Jay.
The Carolina Panthers got up really early in this game, 14 points. Really early. It was like mid-first quarter, maybe late first quarter at best.
Mm-hmm.
They were 14-point underdogs in this game. It's the largest spread that was ever covered by a team that was down 14 points at any point. The largest spread before that was 12.5. But I mean, the Dolphins, 37 points a game. Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle. It was over after that. The Dolphins scored 21 points in the second quarter alone, and the game was over after that.
There was a little hope. You remember that meme? Like, we had him at the beginning. And
had him in the first half, not gonna lie.
Yeah, we had him in the first half, not gonna lie. And for the first quarter, I'm like, damn, the Panthers came out here on fire. What is Miami doing? Miami sleepwalking.
Yep.
And then before you know it, it was boom, 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 and the Dolphins were up. But there were a lot of things to take away from this game, Jay. And my number one takeaway was Bryce Young, another positive step in the right direction for Bryce Young. Josh Norris posted some stuff this morning from Underdog. Shout out to my dog, Josh Norris. Bryce Young had some dots in this game. I mean, he still was getting punished, still getting beat up left and right. still devoid talent. Terrace Marshall dropping passes. Chuba Hubbard was running like he was at Oklahoma State again.
Yep.
We talked about it going into this game. I had Adam Thielen as a must-start player. And, Jay, how long have I been talking about Adam Thielen as a must-start player? All the Trinity stuff makes sense. And Adam Thielen, once again, smashed. Once again, Adam Thielen goes out there and smashes. But Bryce Young put a lot of good stuff on tape. And for back-to-back weeks, he's put some stuff on tape where I'm like, okay, like he's going to be okay. I know my man Damian Parson was talking about it yesterday, like he's going to be okay once they get some talent around him. I was very impressed and encouraged by him. And you see here, look at it, in the middle of the field. It wasn't all short stuff, man. 4 for 5 across the middle of the field in between 10 and 20 yards. Couldn't get anything down the field, but that's to be expected when you don't have anybody that operates in that role for that team. Conversely, you look at Tua and what he was able to do. A lot of his production is down the field. I mean, past 20 yards. I mean, over 150 yards just down the field that Tua is completing passes at a very accurate clip. It just shows the difference in talent at the positions. But I thought Bryce Young played very well in this game. And Tyreek Hill is just a different animal, Jay. He is absolutely insane. He is 186 yards away right now from 1,000 yards on the season, and we are only in essentially week 7.
Absolutely insane.
There was a time when he caught that first bomb, Jay, they run press man coverage with Tyreek Hill. Press man, one-on-one, no safety help, and you know what happened? It was a 70-yard touchdown pass. Just with
every week.
Every week. You cannot do this. Thing. You can't do it. Adam Thielen, 13 targets. Tyreek Hill, 10 targets. Jalen Waddle scored a touchdown in this one. 9 targets for Waddle. So one of his more, I think this is probably the most targets he's seen in a game this year. And I know he's missed a little bit of time. But on the Carolina side of the ball, Jay, there's nothing. Laviska Shenault, I think he broke something on his leg. Yeah, he got hurt, broken leg. Hayden Hurst, I mean, yuck. Thought he could be a sleeper type tight end. It's not happening. There's just not a lot there. It's Adam Thielen, Adam Thielen, Adam Thielen. So if you're going to start any Panther wide receiver, hell, damn near any Panther offensive player, probably just needs to be Adam Thielen. What were some of the takeaways that you had? Because there was a Mostert that had a big game as well.
Yeah, Raheem Mostert, 11 touchdowns. I believe there's only 4 players in history who have 11 touchdowns through 6 weeks. Another 3-touchdown game for Mostert. Now, in this game, of course, we didn't have a lot from the other running backs. It was all him, it was all Waddle, and it was all Hill. And this is what we love to see, right? Another 3 touchdowns for Mostert. He is literally one of the best running backs in football right now. I don't really know if there's any other way to slice it. You may not believe that he's the most talented running back in football, but in this system, whether it's Devon Chan or Raheem Mostert with A.J. out, Mostert's going to smash every single week. And it's one of those things that feels like such an obvious thing to say, but he's still exceeding expectations in some ways. He still had 115 on the ground with 2 touchdowns. He still caught 3 passes for 17 and another touchdown. Like, Miami is just on another level right now. Like, they are absolutely ridiculous. And as I mentioned, coming into the game, they were scoring 37 points a game and still exceeded that number against the Carolina Panthers. Not a lot of takeaways for the Dolphins. They are unreal. They're playing the Chiefs in Frankfurt, and I am so excited. I made the joke with Brandon that the Miami Dolphins were already on Frankfurt time when they played this game early in the game. They decided to show back up in the second quarter, and they were fine after that. But I'm excited for that game between the Chiefs and Dolphins.
You see what Joe said? Joe said Joe said, I'm so tired of the old elite players. They need to take a seat and let the younger guys eat. Travis Kelce can't keep doing this forever. I mean, Joe, shit, we say it every week. I don't think so either, but apparently they can. Apparently Adam Thielen and Travis Kelce, and we'll see it tonight. So he has been, and he looks good, man. It just, you have to wonder if is this
Ray, if you want some context here, because our boy Jordan Vanek at 3013 told me this about Thielen. I didn't want to believe it, but he told me this before the season even started. Mm-hmm. The weirdest thing about Thielen last year was he was running so many deep routes. Like most of his routes were like seams, go routes, and posts.
Okay.
And we know that is not his game. No. Justin Jefferson is the guy that probably should be going down the field when you have KJ Osborne, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. But Thielen last year for Minnesota was basically just clearing out for JJ, and that's why he struggled so much, because all of his targets were down the field. He couldn't separate, and now you have him in Carolina running more short, intermediate routes where he can find separation and can find success. And what do you know? He's back to being the old Adam Thielen again. And so that's where you look at the kind of the usage last season and the usage this season,
right.
Two completely different ways they're utilizing a player, and look at the results. Very different. And so that's one reason why we should be encouraged what we're seeing from Thielen compared to what we saw last season.
Where's he? Can you just, while I set us up for the next game, let me know where he ranks NFL-wise, yards, receptions. I'm very curious. I know his per game fantasy point total is very high. I mean, we talk about him weekly on the Trinity Report, but I'm just curious where he ranks amongst NFL receivers right now, because he's playing like a damn Pro Bowler, and he's 52 years old, and he's going to probably make the Pro Bowl if he continues this up with Bryce Young at quarterback. Don't think there's a lot else to take away from this game. You're firing up all your Dolphins. If you've got Carolina Panthers, I was encouraged by Chuba Hubbard. We didn't talk about him a lot, but had a rushing touchdown, almost 100 rushing yards on the ground. I think if he's got he looked better than Miles Sanders' look this year. He's looked a lot better than Miles Sanders' look. So I'd probably be fine starting Chuba Hubbard as well. And then Bryce Young, very positive, encouraging stuff from him. But they did pull Tua in this game. At one point, someone threw a pick, and I thought, God damn, Tua, how you throw a pick? And it was Mike White throwing a pick. Go figure, Mike freaking White, Jay. Where's Adam Thielen at?
509 receiving yards sandwiched between Nico Collins and Devontae Adams right now. So pretty good. Okay. He's 9th in the NFL. And so, let's see where he is in targets. Probably somewhere similar.
Okay,
he's 6th in the NFL in targets, tied with Adams, just behind A.J. Brown. And at 4, Ray, a surprise, Michael Pittman.
We'll talk about Pittman. Pittman's been balling, man. Pittman's been balling, but that was a great segue to get into this game. And we're going to spend a little time here, Jay. We're going to spend a little bit of time here, and not because the game was good. The game was awful, but you see in the show sheet, it's all Justin Fields. All the takeaways are Justin Fields, Justin Fields, Justin Fields. So Minnesota Vikings beat the Chicago Bears 19-13 in probably the least entertaining game on the slate. There was just, we're all excited for Jordan Addison blow-up game, and yes, he scored a touchdown, but it was not the Jordan Addison blow-up game. Kirk Cousins, again, fine, Jay. Like, he played a good NFL game, 181 yards, no picks. He got beat up once again. But this is all about Justin Fields. And what happened to Justin Fields, the thumb injury, you likened it to Drew Brees. I saw some other people kind of talking about Dak Prescott as well. When he hurt his thumb and missed, I believe, 5 weeks last season to start the season after the injury versus Tampa Bay. Is this the beginning of the end? Is this truly the beginning of the end for Justin Fields in Chicago? And here's why I go there, Jay. They are probably going to lose a lot of games. Right now, they currently have both, I believe, the number 1 and number 2 overall picks in the NFL draft. I believe they are
1 and 2. Yeah, they're even below Denver right now.
I don't know what their remaining schedule is like, but if Justin Fields has to go to IR and you have to start Tyson Bagent and Khalil Herbert's on IR, this is very bad. This is very bad for DJ Moore. It's very bad for Cole Kmet. It's very bad for Justin Fields. So my question to you, and I don't want to be too hot takey, but Fields was already stinking it up in this game prior to the injury. It wasn't just the injury. He was already looking everything that we had got excited about and we talked about this, Jay, in Dynasty. If you had Fields, did you have the Dynasty discipline to move him with those positive performances? And a lot of people did not. Man, it's going to continue. He's got Minnesota, then he's got 5 straight games against the Panthers. He's going to smash. I'm not selling. Now you sit back. He hits IR, Jay. He's out 4 to 6 weeks, and it's his throwing hand. And it's not like that hand was throwing the ball good anyway. So now you're talking about an inconsistent hand with a banged-up thumb. Is this it, Jay? If they lose, Matt Eberflus, in my opinion, is gone. He is out of Chicago. Done. Fired. Polls out. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I think Eberflus is done. It will be the 3rd head coach to have a Justin Fields-led team, and I do not believe that head coach is going to hitch their coaching future to a player that was drafted 2 regimes ago. I don't believe that to be the case. I know Caleb played bad, but it's Caleb Williams. It's Drake May. It's Caleb Williams. Is this the beginning of the end of Fields in Chicago, Jay?
I think it very well could be, but to your point about Eberflus,
yes or no? We're not straddling.
All right, I'll say yes. I mean, I've already been on the Justin Fields train anyway, so it's not. Again, this is the problem, and this is the same thing. Like, people need to understand that this is how bad Washington is in their secondary. Like Drake London, 9 receptions, 125 yards. DJ Moore, 200 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. AJ Brown, like I think it was like 9 receptions, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like this is how bad Washington is. That it's very easy to beat them through the air. Now, Ritter didn't have his best game, but we all don't expect that of Desmond Ritter regardless. When you talk about the schedule for the Bears, Raiders, Chargers, Saints, Panthers, Lions, woof. Do not want to see him play the Lions. So you look at what could be in his absence, probably his best stretch in terms of his schedule. This was what was looking encouraging.
Yes.
When you're playing the Raiders, okay, cool. He can probably beat the Raiders. The Chargers, they've been beatable, especially for quarterbacks. They have a good defense, but they've been beatable. The Saints, I don't know about that. And then I talked about the playoff schedule. Lions, no thank you. Vikings, no thank you the way he already looked. Lions, again, no thank you. Browns, no. Cardinals, I think the Cardinals defense will be fine against Fields. Falcons, no thank you. Don't want to play him. And then his last week in Green Bay, it's week 18, who cares? But like, if you make it to the playoffs with Justin Fields, there's no way he's doing anything for you. He's not beating the Lions twice. He's not beating the Vikings. He's not beating the Browns. So where is that going to get you? It's going to get you out of the playoffs if you have Fields. And I think you're right. I think you should probably sell him for whatever you can get.
Does Ray's Dallas hat fix itself when they play better? It's going to fix itself when we put foot into the Chargers tonight. How about that? We're going to put foot in the Chargers tonight, and the hat will fix itself. So, yes, get those receipts down, Jay. Get those receipts down because we're going to put foot in the Chargers.
You're lucky we don't have a show until Friday.
Listen, this is just football talk here, Jay. I do think it's the beginning of the end. Now, I do. If he's going to miss extended time, he's not going to be on the field to put whatever he needs to on wax. I don't know how on earth, Jay, they finish with the number 1 or potentially 1 and 2 picks, 1 and 3, and
don't take a quarterback.
And don't take a quarterback. Now, a lot of people are talking about trade him to Atlanta. I'll just say this: with Arthur Smith there, I don't know if he's giving up on no Desmond Ritter, and I don't see a world in which he's getting traded when they control the rights to his contract. It feels like they'll just keep him there, sort of like like the Trey Lance and Purdy and whomever else. And I don't think that he gets replaced like right out the gate, right? They'll do that. Justin's our quarterback. You know, Caleb's got a lot to learn, but Justin's our quarterback. And
do you think so? If they draft Caleb?
If they keep him on the roster, they'll 100% pull some stuff like that. It's the Andy Dalton's the starter until he isn't, right? For like 2 more hours that Justin Fields would be the starter, and then it would immediately be Caleb Williams. But I don't think that they would just say, we're going to trade him outright to Atlanta, to anybody. He'd probably be parked in Chicago. So I think this is, if he's truly going to be out, I think it's the beginning of the end. My question to you, Jay, is what would you trade him for right now in Dynasty? Knowing what's happening, what's going on, remove your I hope and I hope and I hope. Right now, what is the rock bottom price you would take on Justin Fields? Rock bottom price. 25 first hit your inbox. 25 first for your Justin Fields.
He's gone. So
1 first, random.
My thought is you can't get a first, at least in 24. But to your point, 25, maybe you could.
25 first.
My head was rock bottom was 2 seconds, but I think my rock bottom would be a single second. I think that's the way I see it right now.
Wow.
Because, again, you talk about rock bottom. That's probably closer to rock bottom.
It's rock bottom.
That's like, question for you. You could trade Justin Fields for Sam Howell right now, straight up. Would you make that trade? I think that's more what I would be inclined to do than trade for a second, right?
Yes, give me Sam Howell. Give me Sam Howell right now.
If you could do that.
Raymond Morris said it's not the beginning of the end, Ray. It's the middle of the end. He's like, the beginning already started. He said it's not the beginning of the end. He said the beginning has already happened. So it's unfortunate, man. I don't want anybody to lose their job or anything like that. Listen, but he was not playing well prior to the injury. He's been very inconsistent throughout this point in his career. This is his second head coach that did not draft him, and I don't believe Eberflus will be back.
Right?
Two good games, man.
So about Eberflus, quickly, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I think this could save his job, was what I was meaning to get at.
So, okay.
And not because he's a good coach, but because, well, what do you want me to do? We lost our starting quarterback type of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see.
No.
He didn't draft Justin Fields, wasn't part of that regime.
His defense stinks. The quarterback stinks. The offense stinks. It's Justin Fields running around trying to find DJ Moore.
So question for you now, would you trade DJ Moore for whatever you could get? Because I don't think there's stink around DJ Moore the way there's stink around Justin Fields.
The regression just slapped DJ Moore hard in the face, man. He was already doing stuff very,
He was 5 for 50 today? It was all right.
Yeah. I don't know, Jay. I don't think I would trade DJ Moore just yet, but Justin Fields can go. Justin Fields can go. He can go. Yep. I would trade him for Sam Howell straight up. If I can get Sam Howell for Justin Fields, that'd be a move I'd make. Question for the Vikings, though, Jay. They won a game that they probably had no business winning. Does this win encourage you for Justin Jefferson coming back? Now, did you hear the reports on Justin Jefferson? It was 4 to 6 weeks. We think 4, but we'll re-image him at 6. And everything that I'm hearing, the fact that they're already talking about re-imaging him and going back and looking at that hammy, probably not very good. But does this win keep Justin Jefferson sort of in the fold for returning? Because I think for a lot of people, they thought, man, they keep losing. The Bears are going to put foot in them, and there's no way Jefferson's stepping foot on the field without a contract. Do you think this win just gives Jefferson a little more boost to coming back? Or are you like, man, I still don't know about that situation?
I don't know if it hurt. Well, it doesn't hurt, right? Them winning this game certainly doesn't hurt. No. But I still don't know if he's going to come back, right? I talked about it on Bleacher Report. They play the Niners this week, Ray. Oof. Is it a trap game? I have to ask the question, because is it a trap game? Hopefully not, because I like the Niners. I want them to win games, and they lost to the Browns, and that sucked, and I think they're a great team.
I don't think this one is a trap game. I'm with you on this one. I'm not going to laugh hysterically, but I do not believe this is a trap game.
So we have Monday Night Football on the road, but thankfully in a dome. So excited for Monday Night Football next week. We have the Niners versus the Minnesota Vikings. After that, they have the Packers.
Okay.
Jordan Love. I don't know. We'll see how he looks, right? Falcons, Saints, Broncos, Bears again. Schedule is okay.
It's okay.
So the more concerning part is, okay, Justin Jefferson's on IR. That's fine. We're okay with that. We're going to reevaluate him in 4 weeks. That sounds terrible. That sounds like the beginning of the end for this season for Justin Jefferson. You do not want to see a star receiver being re-imaged mid-season, because that's the same thing we saw with Cooper Kupp, right? Cooper Kupp got hurt, and we're like, okay, we'll reevaluate him in 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever. And next thing you know, he doesn't come back because there's no reason for him to come back. And I think that's what the Vikings are looking at right now. And so if Jefferson is even, that prolonged even further into week 12, into week 13, it's December. They're playing in Chicago, Ray. No, thank you. Jefferson's not playing in that game. They got the Raiders, Bengals, Lions, Packers.
Any interest in Tyson? Man. Any interest in Tyson Bagent?
I know that a lot of people like him. So, there's a lot of fanfare for Baggett right now. So hopefully he can do something.
Is it Baggett, or I think it's Bagent? I think it's
Bagent. I don't know, because I thought that Ilyasovas was how you said his name, and it's Yoshivas for Andre.
Really? I thought it was
right. We're watching the Bengals game, and he scored a touchdown. So shout out. We'll get to that game. He scored a touchdown. That's our next game anyway. So we can
next game. Let's get into it. Seattle, Cincinnati. Lead with Ilyasovas. Go ahead. Lead with him.
So his name is actually Yoshivas, which is very interesting, because that is not what I expected. But shout out to him. It was his birthday. He scored a touchdown. The Seattle Seahawks, Ray, they are in trouble. I'm a little bit concerned about the Seahawks right now. They lost 17-13. I talked about Geno Smith's struggles. 27 for 41, 323. Okay, that's acceptable. 2 interceptions, 4 sacks. Not a great game from Geno Smith, in my opinion. I thought the Bengals played him very well.
He did not play well. He had a nice throw at the end of the game, but he did not play well at all. I mean, hell, Joe Burrow didn't really play well in this game, but Geno Smith definitely did not play well in this game. Why are you concerned? What is it, Jay? What is it, Jay?
I'm just concerned that the team is bad, right? So it's funny, right? You talked about how the Cleveland Browns have a great defense and they beat the San Francisco 49ers. How the hell did this Seahawks team beat the Lions, the top team in the NFC right now, who is on fire?
Yes.
How did Seattle beat this team? It's ridiculous that this is what's going on in Seattle, because Geno's just not been good. There's no other way to slice it. He's not good for fantasy. He hasn't been great overall. Didn't throw any touchdowns yet again. I talked about how he's not throwing touchdowns anymore this year. Kenneth Walker was fine, 3 a carry. Teams are just keying in on Walker because they know that's the entire offense. Jack Charbonnet didn't do a ton, but Lockett had a pretty good game. Metcalf got involved, and we saw something from JSN. Your notes are a little bit more discouraging about JSN, but 4 for 48 is a pretty damn good week for JSN, considering I believe he came into the week with like 57 receiving yards. So are you at all encouraged about what you saw from JSN and kind of what we may see going forward?
Sure. Encouraged that he's not an absolute zero, but somebody that I want to plug into a fantasy lineup? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can't. You can't. Geno Smith going into this week was what, QB 22 on the season, point per game, 14.5 points per game, and I don't think that this outing helped him out at all. I don't know what it is. And then they did have Charles Cross back, so one of their starting tackles was back in this matchup. But yeah, Jay, it just, I don't know. You look at this offense, and it's got Kenneth Walker. You do have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and it just doesn't. This was just a gross game. You looked up, and it was finally the fourth quarter, and both teams just felt like neither of them really wanted to win the game. And it came down to Geno Smith essentially taking a damn sack on fourth down without getting the ball out. You know, the right side of the offensive line just let free defenders, I think it was Sam Hubbard and somebody else, come through scot-free. Like, that can't happen. Those are things that cannot happen. And now the Seattle Seahawks are sitting here at what, 3-2 on the season? I don't know what to say about this one. Kenneth Walker, give me all the Kenneth Walker I can get. Zach Charbonnet still not doing much. Joe Mixon on the other side of the ball. I mean, it's just the Bengals offense feels like it's a little broken too. Like, Cincinnati still feels like it just does not feel like they are clicking like we're accustomed to seeing these Bengals play, Jay. You look at Joe Burrow down the field, nothing. Like, there's nothing going on for him down the field. He had, 54 yards farther than 10 yards down the field. Think about that again, Jay. 54 yards. That's what he had that came from 10 yards or more in this game. So I don't know. Both of these teams feel like they're still in neutral, like they're trying to figure it out. And I understand T. Higgins is banged up and Joe Mixon's a little bit older. The offensive line this, offensive line that. But ultimately, this was just a kind of a dirty, disgusting game. Jamar Chase started off very on fire. I was like, man, it's going to be another monster week for Jamar Chase. And then all of a sudden, nothing open downfield. Joe Burrow threw a pick. It just was a nasty game. There just wasn't a lot for me to take away outside of, Jay, I want to say Geno Smith, you can't start him, but hell, all the quarterbacks in the NFL are stinking it up right now, so you kind of have no choice. I feel very bad for those teams that started off with the late old quarterbacks with Geno Smith, Ryan Tannehill, Mac Jones. If you've got those guys as your starting quarterbacks, you're probably not doing very well right now in fantasy, man.
Yeah, Geno Smith was behind Zach Wilson, behind Bryce Young in terms of fantasy scoring, so it wasn't overly great for Geno Smith.
Alex, listen, I get it. He's not playing well, but Alex says Burrow's injury isn't an excuse anymore. He's just not that good. Alex, I'm not going to go that far, all right? I'm not going to go that far. Alex, he's not playing Joe Burrow level ball right now, but I'm just not going to say he's not that good anymore.
Yeah, so, I mean, we did have T. Higgins back, as you mentioned, but he was splitting snaps with Trent Irwin, and he really is, to some degree, their downfield threat, and Chase has been the guy who's been doing it short, mainly because of what they needed to do. But as you mentioned, Ray, the more concerning part is you have one team, the Bengals, who are struggling, but headed into a bye, versus Seattle Seahawks, who are coming out of a bye with this performance, right? So I think that's the more concerning part is, like, you had 2 weeks to prepare for this team, and still, this is what you put on tape. That's not a good look for the Seahawks, and there isn't any time for them to, again, readjust, figure out what they're going to do, utilize JSN more, whatever the case may be, versus the Bengals, who are going to have T. Higgins hopefully fully healthy after the bye week, Orlando Brown as well, Joe Burrow 2 weeks to, once again, continue to heal, get better, and I think hopefully come out of the bye looking a lot better than they've looked so far this season.
Are you buying Jackson Smith and Jigba off of this game? Like, would you go buy him right now? Like, okay, he got 48 yards, 5 targets. Would you be buying him?
Yeah, I guess so. I think the ceiling right now is pretty low. It's one of those situations that we saw this coming, right? Lockett's not going away. Metcalf's not going away.
No.
And if Geno Smith can't support even 2 wide receivers, which he basically hasn't done all season, there's no way in hell he's supporting JSN as well. So he's going to be basically a zero all year long unless something changes. And the way things are trending, 8 targets for Lockett, 10 for DK, and 5 for JSN. So he caught 4 of those targets, which was good for 48 yards. But outside of that, I don't think we expect a whole lot. And with Geno playing so poorly, I don't know if we can really feel optimistic about things getting better going forward either. But Ray, do you want to go forward with this now? Because we do have the Colts and Jaguars game on tap. And I know you are very excited to talk about Travis Etienne because Travis Etienne has been balling
to start
this season. And I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited. Travis Etienne was a player that I was encouraged with in the offseason, but it really didn't look so great coming into the year. There was the fears over Tank Bigsby and what that may mean for Travis Etienne. And Travis Etienne has not written back on all the haters who wrote him off in the offseason saying Tank Bigsby was going to work and take away from his workload. And he's been great. I mean, another week, 2 more touchdowns. I mean, they came, in like 5 minutes apart? Oh my God, it was phenomenal from Etienne. He wasn't overly efficient, but the volume continues to be there for him.
5 minutes apart? They what? 5 minutes apart?
He scored like 5 minutes apart from
Whoa. All right, keep going.
Whoa.
Yeah, I thought you said
he's been
something.
good.
Yeah, Travis Etienne has been very good, Jay. Travis Etienne has been very good, and I know he averaged like 3 point something a carry. But man, his contact balance is very good, and coming out of Clemson, that was one of his best attributes was his contact balance, the explosiveness. He's playing very good football right now. He's playing very good football. Trevor Lawrence, Jay, in this matchup, tweaked his knee. You talked about it. You saw him walking off of the field. Wasn't like a great game for T-Law, but he did what he needed to do to get the job done. 30 for 20, 181, 2 interceptions. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Gardner Minshew threw the ball 55 times, Jay. And I don't know if you watched this game, but I was checking it out because I wanted to see how that man Jonathan Taylor did, which you see on, I believe, his long reception, 40-something yard reception, hit almost 21 miles an hour. So JT still very good and very fast. Gardner Minshew was stank. I mean, and I'm not talking about, there's one thing when people throw interceptions, they're trying to fire it into a tight window. I mean, Minshew was just lofting them up. I mean, they were the easiest interceptions you will ever see. But he threw the ball 55 times. This was a quick rematch. These guys played in week 1, and they already had them matched up again here in week 6, Jay. But the Colts, listen, I like some of the pieces that they have. Gardner Minshew is fine as a backup quarterback, but this ain't the type of cat that you want starting every damn week for you in the NFL. But unfortunately, I don't know if you saw Anthony Richardson walking around. I mean, that shoulder's in a sling.
With the sling, yeah.
I don't think he's coming back. Just my personal opinion. What does it do for Indianapolis to put him back on the field? I guess get the experience at the end of the season, but I'm just shutting him down. At this point, just shut JRich down. Let Indy lose some games. Hopefully they can get in the range where they can draft an Olu Fashanu. I don't even know if they need another receiver. Maybe, sure. Maybe you could find that in through free agency. But I'm loving what we're seeing from Michael Pittman Jr. Josh Downs was heavily targeted in this matchup. Talked about him on the Trinity Report last week. So the production wasn't there, but he was targeted in this matchup. You see it, 8 targets for Josh Downs. I believe he was second on the team, only behind Michael Pittman in targets in this matchup. What's interesting about the running back split, Jay, is I believe Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor had the exact same amount of touches. I think JT had 1 more carry than Zach Moss, and then Zach Moss had 1 more reception than Jonathan Taylor. But I do believe, and we talked about this on Friday, you laughed again. I should have pulled this one up, but it is looking like it's going to be a committee. It is going to be a committee of sorts in this backfield, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm fine with it. I'm personally fine with it. The game script was a little wonky in this one, but I do believe that where they need to run the ball, they will use Jonathan Taylor. The fact that they are utilizing him in the receiving game, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better about his long-term health options, right? Don't just jam him up the gut 27 times. Use Zach Moss, use Jonathan Taylor. I thought both players were fine in this matchup. What were your kind of takeaways from the offensive sort of split? Neither of them got anything going on the ground, but 8 carries for JT, 7 for Zach Moss. And then, like I said, Zach Moss, I believe, had 1 more reception than Jonathan Taylor did.
Yeah, you mentioned it. They were tied in opportunities on the week. You know, Zach Moss had a slightly better fantasy week because he was lucky enough to get in the end zone. But outside of that, they were basically even. So in terms of opportunities, they're fine. I think my more concern is Jonathan Taylor going to get the majority of the work? You know, that 60%, that 65%, you know, hopefully in terms of opportunity share is kind of what we're hoping for, because that is the Jonathan Taylor that we were drafting, right? We all are fine with Zach Moss getting some work because Jonathan Taylor can't get every carry, can't get every opportunity, but we did draft Jonathan Taylor to be a very startable fantasy asset. And if he's not getting that 60%, I'd be curious, you know, do we see more weeks like this where, yes, the opportunities were equal, but unfortunately for us, Zach Moss was the one who got the extra 6 points and got in the end zone. So I think that's going to be the only concern. But I think the positive side of this is that Jonathan Taylor saw a major uptick in terms of opportunity share this week relative to last week. And so that is encouraging. It's just, what does that split ultimately look like further on in the year as things get more, as you know, he gets more healthy and the Colts hopefully look better. I think the most concerning part, Ray, is actually the target shares for the Jacksonville pass catchers. Zay Jones obviously is hurt right now, but we have a 1A, 1B, 1C situation right now in Jacksonville. After week 1, everyone said Calvin Ridley's the guy. But ever since then, going forward now, 49 targets for Christian Kirk, 44 targets for Calvin Ridley, 44 targets, Ray, for Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
That's not great if you're trying to have some of these guys in fantasy, because we've talked about it. Scott Connor was all over this. Evan Ingram, massive value in fantasy right now because the volume is there. When he's being targeted the same as these top-tier wide receivers, whether it's Calvin Ridley or Christian Kirk, that is a good sign. And you want to keep starting him each and every week. He's only about 60 yards behind those guys. And Ray, little did you know, he is actually has the most receptions on the Jaguars right now is Evan Ingram. So he's been phenomenal. He doesn't have a receiving touchdown, but outside of that, all the peripherals look great. But how do you feel about the situation now? Because everyone was writing off Christian Kirk. Everyone was on the Calvin Ridley train. And it doesn't seem like everyone's really quite bought into Ingram. And even still, all of this is going on, and they've been pretty good for fantasy. And Trevor Lawrence has kind of just been okay.
Yeah, listen, they're winning games. And ultimately, if they're winning games, things should get better for them. Britton Strange, the rookie tight end out of Penn State, got some work, got in the end zone in this matchup. It kind of feels like Washington, right? You've got a lot of pass catchers. You've got a lot of good options in this offense. You've got Ingram. You've got Kirk. You've got Ridley. You've got Britton Strange potentially emerging. And then when Zay Jones gets healthy, you put him back on the field. Combined with Travis Etienne, there's a lot of good pieces offensively. So if anything, Jay, what this would do for me, honestly, is buy Trevor Lawrence. Like if T-Law's banged up, you see the weapons around. This is a very good football team. I'm doing a Bleacher Report power ranking stream today. I got Jacksonville, I believe, 6th in my power rankings overall in the NFL. So this is a good team. I want to invest in good teams and good players on teams. If there's an opportunity to buy a Trevor Lawrence, maybe grab a Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram because of the kind of spread out distribution of targets, I would definitely take advantage of that small window that you have in order to buy a potentially elite type player for fantasy football and scoring points. Jay, but before we get to this next matchup, let's do this because I know there's some players from this team that have probably wrecked rosters. So let's talk about roster reviews over at Dynasty Trades in 5. Yes, we have partnered with Dynasty Trades in 5. Y'all all know that. Whoops, my bad. Partnered with them. And you can scan the QR code, head to dynastytradesin5.com/roster reviews to get those Mac Jones-led QB1 rosters fixed because I know your team is in shambles. You drafted Mac and you paired him up with Justin Jefferson and you paired him up with Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb and thought that he'd get it done for you, and it ain't happening. So come get your damn rosters reviewed. Scan the screen. Go to the thing. Scott, Shane, Clay, and the roster review team over at Dynasty Trades in 5. They're phenomenal. Get over there and check that out, Jay. But let's get on to your New England Patriots, who lost yet again to the Josh McDaniels-led Las Vegas Raiders, who had Brian Hoyer in at quarterback because Jimmy Garoppolo was injured, had to go to the hospital. Hope everything is okay with him. Devontae Adams left the game. Jay, I watched this game. I am a fraudulent Raiders fan.
You.
I'm a fraudulent Raiders fan. You knew I grew up in Las Vegas, so part of me, I just have to cheer for the home team, right? I just have to cheer for the home team. I'm watching this game, and I'll just say this. Mac Jones was not the problem in this matchup. He was not the problem in this matchup. He may not have been the answer. But he wasn't the problem. Yes, he had a horrendous interception, but you know what? Quarterbacks throw picks. That shit just happens, right?
The safety?
When they need it. Well, what happened right before the safety? Tell me what happened right before the safety. Right before the safety, he drops back, throws like a 45-yard dime to Devontae Parker. And what does Parker do? Drop the ball. Just drops it. And then the very next player, the play after that, safety ensues. But Mac Jones was not the problem in this one. Again, not the answer, but probably not the problem. Not the problem, but not the answer either, Jay. This is just the team is bad. New England's just bad, dude. They're just bad. They can't run the ball. Ramondre can't do anything. They can't block. They can't stop anybody defensively. I don't know where you go. I don't know where you go. Bailey Zappi wasn't even active. They've got Malik Cunningham there. New England lost again. I believe they're currently projected to pick top 5.
6th.
They're 6th in the NFL draft right now. What are your thoughts on this one, man? I mean, Ramondre scored. Zeke scored. Zeke also, Jay, had a 50-something yard screenplay called back for a touchdown because of a holding call by Hunter Henry. So you look at this game, and New England had a lot of opportunities to take this home and win this game. What are your thoughts with the Patriots and on the other side of the ball, the Raiders, right? Devontae Adams, I believe, was it concussion protocol? What was it?
I didn't see what happened with Adams, actually. I missed that part of the game. But yeah, I remember him going out.
Well, yes, I'm talking on the ground, Joe. I'm talking on the ground. We'll get to the pass. I'm talking on the ground. I'm just talking running the ball. Yes, Ramondre was dump off king and getting the receptions. I'm just talking about running the ground. They can't find any lanes to run. This offensive line is not creating any opportunity, and it's got both of these guys looking like slugs out here because they can't run the damn ball, man.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple plays, especially late in the game, where it seemed like the play design was there and the lane was there, and then the Raiders just closed it right down. It was crazy to see because it seemed like the play call was actually okay, and then next thing you know, completely shut down by the Raiders, whether it was poor execution by the Patriots. From a rushing perspective, they were actually okay. 4.4 carry as a team. Ramondre, 4.6. As you mentioned, Zeke, 4.9. He got in the end zone. Ramondre did leave the game for a bit. There was concerns of a concussion when he fell pretty hard.
Yeah, he fell hard.
Was cleared, came back. Hopefully he's okay, but that was definitely concerning if you are a Ramondre owner. But as people did mention, 5 receptions, 24 yards, did see the end zone for both of them as well, which was good. Kendrick Bourne was great, 10 receptions, 85 yards on 11 targets. Ray, the biggest takeaway from this game, Jacoby Myers continues to be great.
Of course,
and Michael Mayer, breakout game, right? Absolute breakout game for Michael Mayer. He's been continuing to get more and more snaps each and every week. Last week was the first week he finally outsnapped Austin Hooper, and this week he took it even a step further with 5 receptions and 75 yards on 6 targets. We have been waiting since the offseason for anything positive about Michael Mayer, and it seems like we finally have it. How do you feel about Michael Mayer going forward now? We can talk about Jacobs if you want. Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, whoever the quarterback is going to be. At least they're familiar with the system, so I'm not too worried about the weapons. But I think this is a very encouraging sign for Michael Mayer because we haven't seen much from him pretty much all season.
I told y'all about Jacobs, man. It's that 8. That jersey's too damn big. I told y'all 3-4 weeks ago.
Elijah Moore, right?
It's not the number. It's the jersey's too damn big. You're not listening to what I'm saying. The jersey's too big. You can't go out there and play swagged out when your jersey looks like a damn dress. Like, I'm telling you what it is. Get a tighter jersey. Get the sleeves tightened up, Jacobs. You look good, feel good, play good, but he's getting a lot of volume. He's getting a lot of work, so you can't be upset about that. Had some opportunities to score. Jacoby Myers is a stud, man. And what's the sweet poetic justice about this is New England needed him. Like, you had him right there, dude. Like, and you give Juju $30 million, and he's inactive. His knees are cooked. Jacoby Myers is very good. Michael Mayer, I liked him coming out of Notre Dame, Jay. And I understand he may not have the athleticism as all these other guys, but damn, you watch him play at Notre Dame for 3 years. He was pretty good. He was pretty good at Notre Dame. And finally, they've woken up and said, you know what? Maybe we should throw him the ball and not Austin Hooper. I just want to know what happens with Adams. I just don't need Devontae. I need something to happen with Adams. And nothing is happening with Adams right now, at least the past couple of weeks. And with Jimmy Garoppolo potentially missing time, I don't know. Put Aiden O'Connell back in. At least he'll hyper-target those two. I do like Michael Mayer. I bought him in 2 leagues this past week, so I feel good that I was able to get him before the breakout. Very encouraged by Michael Mayer. They need to get him the ball. He feels like doesn't he – listen – And I understand the athleticism and the creativity in which Buffalo can use a Dalton Kincaid, but doesn't Michael Mayer feel more like a traditional like tight end that you can rely on down in and down out, first, second, third down? Like, doesn't he feel like the tight end that we need to be having right now?
Yeah, he feels a lot like Sam Laporta, right? Like tight end who went to Notre Dame, where they pass a little bit and they block a ton. Iowa, they pass a little bit, and Laporta was a massive part of their passing game, and they block and run the ball a ton. And this is why I think, Ray, we talk about these tight ends, and the reason why there's so much encouragement for Laporta, for a Mayer, because they're coming from systems that will acclimate to the NFL much better than what we saw from Luke Musgrave and we saw from Dalton Kincaid, where they don't play a traditional tight end role.
Talk about it, Scout JRich. I like this.
I'm not a scout, but
you're a scout, man. You went to the Senior Bowl, man. You scouted these guys. You pumped up. You were the one who pumped up damn Luke Musgrave.
I did pump up Luke Musgrave, and he's a big man. I stood next to him. He is a big man. But the big thing with Michael Mayer, and you could do the same thing about Brock Bowers and coming from Georgia and being very NFL ready, whether it's blocking and obviously a phenomenal pass catcher as well. Having both accelerates your ability to get on the field in the NFL. And even for Michael Mayer, who a lot of people thought was the most complete tight end in college football. Sam Laporta was obviously right there with him in terms of how complete he was as a player. People sort of believed in Mayer a little bit more. Obviously, the draft capital kind of said otherwise. But this is the reason why all offseason I was like, are we ever going to hear anything about Michael Mayer? Like anything. Because we didn't hear anything about Mayer. And for the longest time, like you talked about, whether he was a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, it was Michael Mayer is the next Kyle Pitts. Like, he's the next tight end up. And then out of nowhere, Dalton Kincaid, well, he could be the next Travis Kelce or this or that. And he's not really playing on the field that much because he is not a Michael Mayer, a Sam Laporta archetype of player. And when you have a player like that, they have the ability to impact the game in multiple phases and, more importantly, get on the field more often. And that leads itself to more fantasy points.
Yeah, Jay, we talked about it in the Friday show, some of our top storylines. And what I said in the show sheet on Friday was Bill Belichick. He's taken a lot of heat. Has the game passed him by? Just quickly, what are your thoughts on Bill Belichick and what do the Patriots do with him, or what does he decide to do at the end of the year? Could we see a changing of the guard at the head coaching position after the season? I'm just throwing that out there. What do you think? Because it looks like Bill's tired of this team too. Tired of this team.
Yeah.
The team feels like they're tired of him. It just feels like a relationship that is going south very, very quickly.
I think I would compare it to a Popovich situation, right? So the biggest thing, of people who aren't really aware, right? Victor Wembanyama, the next LeBron James, Kevin Durant, name a prospect, dude is 7'4" and plays like Kevin Durant. He was drafted first overall by the San Antonio Spurs, and there was a lot of thoughts about Greg Popovich, probably the greatest NBA coach of all time, compared to a lot of people. He ended up coming back because they got Victor Wembanyama. So if the Patriots aren't in a spot to get a quarterback, maybe there's a world where Bill Belichick retires. But if they do get a Drake May or, heaven forbid, a Caleb Williams, maybe there's hope that. Ray, I don't really want to see him coach by Bill Belichick, but I am a Caleb Williams fan, and we all see what happens to pretty much any offensive weapon when they go to New England. Not good things happen for them. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. If the Patriots aren't in the spot to draft a quarterback, maybe he does retire. But the issue is that can they at least take away his GM responsibilities? Because he cannot build a roster in today's NFL. He can build a defense, and he can have his say on that end, but he should not be responsible for putting together an offense, because clearly he can't do that. He hasn't had success over the past 3 to 4 seasons. As you've mentioned countless times, without Brady, he's just not that guy. So if they can get a real GM in there to help make better decisions, I think that could be a great boost, even if he's still the head coach. But yeah, does he retire? I don't know. Kraft isn't going to kick him out. There's no way they fire him. That's not happening. So he has to decide to leave on his own, more likely than not, and we'll see what happens there. But I hope they can at least get a GM that can make good decisions, because, you look at Monty Ossenfort in Arizona, he seems to be doing a pretty good job. You look at that team, they're playing better than we expected, and he was in New England, and they let him go.
Anymore? I mean, you just kept going on about those Patriots. Any more you want to get off your chest before we move to the next game? I mean,
we can go to the next game.
Just making sure. I mean, you're talking about Mozzie Smith,
Monty
Austin, whatever you're saying. I was zoned out trying to turn the air conditioner on. But Jay, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. The Josh Dobbs hype train seems to be coming to a full stop.
Is it over, Ray?
It's coming to a full stop, but I did support his brand and bought some stuff, and Josh Dobbs did retweet me for supporting his brand. But 21 for 41, 235, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Matthew Stafford was fine in this game, 226.
Don't do that to my man Stafford. Come on now.
I thought Stafford was going to light him up, man. I thought Stafford was going for 350 plus, but Arizona did a decent job, at least early, containing this Rams offense. And then all of a sudden, explosion time, because Kyron Williams just went nuclear, Jay. 20 carries, 158. Again, laughed.
Crazy.
I was mocked and ridiculed for my Kyron Williams draft love, and said that he'd be a solid player, and it's panning out. It didn't happen in year 1, but damn, year 2, he is smashing right now. On the other side of the ball, a big... They don't even have DeMarcado in here because he was a big nothing burger. And I told you on Friday, you and everybody else out in the fantasy land thinking that they were just going to turn around and give DeMarcado the ball 20 times is one of the wildest things I'd ever heard in my life. That is such a ridiculous notion to even think he was going to go into that game and command 20+ attempts. He's the bell cow running back.
20. But did you expect this notes.
Though? Yes,
I believe I said somewhere around 15.
No, you said 20. You said 20 touches for DeMarcado along with everybody else, and he went out there and stunk it up, because they can't do anything. And they're just going to run a committee of running backs because he's not that kind of guy, right? Keontae Ingram led the team in rushing, and from the running back position. Damian Williams signed him off the damn street. He's getting run.
I didn't even know he was on the team.
Stop pumping up these awful running backs. He didn't do anything in college. He's not going to do anything in the NFL. All right? This Arizona team, they're doing what they need to do. They're competitive for a little bit, and then they stink it up like they need to so they can get a high draft pick. Good for Arizona. The only other thing that I want to talk about from them is Hollywood Brown didn't produce this week, but he still had, I believe, how many targets did he have? Hollywood, 11 targets. Yeah, still had 11 targets. So good for Hollywood. The result wasn't there, but the process was there. Other side of the ball, Jay. Cooper Kupp goes nuclear. 9 targets, 148, 1 touchdown. And Puka Nacua, Jay, 7 targets, 26 yards. So by far his worst game of his early young professional career. But check this out. And I got this stat from Dwayne McFarland. Puka still had 33% of the target share. Cooper Kupp had 43%. Over the last 2 games, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua have 70% of the Rams' targets. 70% target share between those two. So even though the result wasn't there for Nacua this week, the process is still there. He's still being heavily targeted. Not worried about him. Are you concerned at all about this guy?
No, absolutely not. You talk about target consolidation. Only 4 receivers actually saw targets. Ronnie Rivers was the only running back who saw a target. So even Tutu Atwell, to some degree, is startable because you know that he's one of the only guys who's going to have a chance to get a target. You don't want to start him, especially the way he's been playing. But Puka, more than fine. 7 targets. Just the volume wasn't there. We expected a little bit more, but we also didn't expect Kyren to go 20 for 158 either, right?
Yeah.
So you think about, you take some carries away from Kyren, put them towards Stafford passes, and all of a sudden Cooper Kupp is even better. Puka's still great. Maybe Tutu gets a few more targets, and the Rams are more than fine. But 24 pass attempts was definitely not what I saw in the cards. But Stafford was pretty good in this game, even against Arizona. Didn't have to do much, though.
He was good. Stafford was good. I said he was okay, but Stafford was fine. Stafford was good. We just wanted him to throw for like 400 yards. We thought it could be one of those type of games, but Stafford was fine. Stafford did not
play. His line was like 286 or something.
Yeah, it was
super high.
It was a high line for Stafford. Oh boy, Jay.
Where are we going?
We're going to New York. We're going to New York.
Talk about another disappointing performance.
No, man, we're talking about a winning performance from Zach Wilson. Another win for Zach. Isn't it a full circle moment, Jay? That no, he was not balling. This is all
for Zach Wilson. It was balling.
For all sarcasm here. But you look at that 2021 class, and Trevor Lawrence, he's still number 1.
Yes, sir.
Would you take Zach Wilson as QB2? Going back in time, think about it. Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Justin Fields. Would you dare take Zach Wilson as QB2 like he was drafted? The answer for me is no. He's still not very good, but I just don't answer that.
Let's actually rank them, though, because I'm really curious your thoughts.
Okay, rank them.
I think Mac Jones is probably 2, but I don't know who I want between Fields, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance. Trey Lance is still a question mark. We don't know how good he is. Is he at 5 for you? Is Fields at 3, I guess? And then Wilson's at 4?
Trey Lance is absolutely
So it's probably Lawrence, Mac, Fields, Wilson,
Lance.
Would you take Wilson over Fields?
Listen, we're not doing this right now. The Eagles lost, man. The Eagles lost, and Jalen Hurts probably had his worst game since really taking over as the starter. A lot of people point to the Tampa Bay game when he didn't have A.J. Brown and the Buccaneers beat him in the playoffs, but this was a bad Jalen Hurts performance. He started off really good. 3 interceptions were not good. Devonta Smith dropped the ball. I believe 2 running backs fumbled the ball. I know DeAndre Swift fumbled it one time. I think there was another fumble in that game.
He was the only recorded fumble.
He was the only fumble. DeAndre Swift fumbled the ball. They couldn't get the running game going. And defensively, the Jets were on their ass, man. The Jets were absolutely just menacing across the board. Quentin Williams and his brother, Quincy Williams, were all over the place. He just did a good job. They were physical with the Eagles. A.J. Brown did go off. A.J. Brown went off, and he is the alpha, as everybody was a little concerned. No, I think Dallas Goedert. So it wasn't a fumble. Dallas Goedert had the ball pop out of his hands, and then that's how Quentin Williams got the interception. But, Jay, Philly losing this game, and what are your thoughts on this offense? We've talked about it every single week that the offense just feels a little slow, feels like it's not quite that Shane Steichen-led offense. Are you concerned about Jalen Hurts moving forward?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I do have to give some credit to the Jets, though, because this is, multiple weeks in a row, they have made quarterbacks look awful, whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Jalen Hurts, right? They had a really tough stretch, but they continue to be menacing towards quarterbacks. I think that's the biggest takeaway
Dak
for me.
Prescott lit him up.
Yeah, Dak Prescott did play pretty well in that game, which is surprising because he's been terrible all year long. But, you talk about what we've seen from Jalen Hurts. He's had some ups, some downs. He was okay as a passer. 28 for 45 isn't great. The interceptions were terrible, though. Like, the decision-making was very poor, but he made some plays as well. So it's hard to evaluate Hurts from a holistic standpoint and say that he's trending down. He had a bad performance, but so did Josh Allen, right? Like, it's more so you don't want to start quarterbacks against this Jets team because they are so good. Like, they're so good, whether Sauce Gardner's in there. Yeah, unless it's Dak Prescott, you don't really want to start anyone against the Jets. I thought that Hurts, from a fantasy standpoint, was okay. The interceptions were really bad, but, he scored a touchdown on the ground, and he got the ball to A.J. Brown, who had another 125-yard performance, fourth straight game, Eagles franchise record. So I'm okay with Hurts going forward. I think he'll be fine. I think it was just one bad game, and hopefully they can right the ship after this week.
Any concerns on DeAndre Swift? I know there were a lot of people trying to buy Swift. Should I pay a first for DeAndre Swift? Any concerns on DeAndre Swift?
I would be concerned if he didn't have 10 targets and 8 receptions.
There you go.
That is an extremely high floor for a player that we know can do it through the air. Just we didn't expect it because of this Philly offense. When he's the second leading target getter on the team, that's a great sign. I believe he had 7 targets in the first half as well. So I think Swift's going to be fine going forward, whether he gets it done on the ground or through the air. Very tough matchup against the Jets, especially on the ground. But how did you feel about the Jets side? Were you okay with Breece Hall, even though he didn't have his best game, but was lucky enough to get in the end zone?
Breece Hall is the belt. Get Dalvin Cook off of the field. Stop wasting touches on Dalvin Cook. Give the damn ball to Breece Hall. And I think at this point, Jay, I know there was a lot of concern about Garrett Wilson. I think he's QB proof. Like, he's just going to go out there and get targeted 10 plus times. He's good enough. He's good enough to catch 50% of them. He's probably going to be pretty good. He did get banged up, came back in. Sounds like the ankle injury, you talked about it at the beginning. We hope it doesn't keep him out for any period of time. But I think Garrett Wilson is matchup proof. And if you can get him from a manager who's a little panicked or is thinking that you still need to sell him because it's Zach Wilson, I would actually be trying to buy Garrett Wilson. I believe he's matchup proof. We kind of talked about this. It was one of your storylines. Could he get busy on this Eagles defense? And he absolutely did. 8 for 90. My question for you, Jay, coming out of this matchup with the Jets is: did you see Aaron Rodgers standing on the field, throwing the football around? What do you think? Oh, Aaron Rodgers about to make a miraculous Achilles tendon recovery and get back on the field this season?
Yeah, we were talking about, I think, what was this, last week sometime? You were like, there's no way, it's not possible. You've been through it, right?
I still don't think there's a way, but let's go.
You know the recovery.
I do.
Very tough stretch for the Jets. Ray, now next week, they got the Giants. They're looking great. They got the Chargers. Okay, tough game. They got the Raiders. Depending on Jimmy Garoppolo's status, they can win that game. The Jets are looking okay. Maybe there's a world where Aaron Rodgers does come back. The tough part for them really is, you look at their end of season schedule, Falcons in December, Texans in December, Commanders, regardless of where that game is, cold, Browns, cold, Patriots, cold. If I was Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't want to play, right? So that's the big takeaway for me. But if he does come back, would be crazy. Absolutely
It'd be wild.
Crazy.
I'm still not buying it. I'm still not buying that he's going to be able to return. That is a brutal injury to come back from. I've got firsthand experience. Still hurts to this day. But you know what? He's got access to significantly better resources in the medical field than I do. Than old GQ. I got that old Blue Cross Blue Shield, baby, and they ain't giving me no kind of special stuff for the Achilles, Jay. Let's pivot to Detroit and Tampa Bay. Top storylines coming out of this one for me was David Montgomery, the bell cow, David Montgomery. And for you was Chris Godwin becoming the alpha in this offense. So we look at this one. I've got Detroit Lions number 2 in my power rankings this week, JRich. I think they're the second best team in football right now. What Dan Campbell has done with this team and the way Jared Goff is playing, give him his extension. What are we doing? Why has Jared Goff not been extended at this point in time? Extend Jared Goff. He has been phenomenal since being traded from the Rams and sort of left for dead. 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was down both his top 2 running backs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 15 targets. If you're going to tell me he's going to get 15 targets a week, there you go. He's going to smash. Got a touchdown. Great block by Craig Reynolds. But Jamison Williams getting in the end zone. Long touchdown catch for J-Mo. He did score a long touchdown catch. He caught 2 of his 3 targets, 53 yards for a touchdown. So if you had the desperation play, J-Mo, he scored you some points, cracked the lineup, did a good job. And your boy, Chris Godwin, 6 targets, 77 yards. Baker Mayfield, the hype is starting to fizzle out a little bit, Jay. The Baker Mayfield steam starting to fizzle out a little bit. I just want to talk. The backfield in Tampa Bay, Rachaad White ain't it, Jay. He wasn't it last year. He's not it this year.
Keyshawn Vaughn getting carries? What are we doing?
No thank you to Rachaad White. Keyshawn Vaughn no good either. 6 for 9, 69 for Keyshawn Vaughn, a 6 and a 9. That sounds about right. Just after your rosters if you had to throw him in there. But you don't want any of these guys. Rachaad White is just... Steve Smith was talking all about Jerry Jeudy being a Jag. This is a Jag. And I'm not going to go and berate him to the degree that Smith did Jeudy, but no thank you on Rachaad White. This Bucs offense is starting to fizzle out, Jay. It's not looking good for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and I think this is what we expect from Baker, right? An average quarterback who went up against a great defense, has been playing much better each and every week, and what do you know? They are dominating once again. You talk about Chris Godwin was great. I was praying he got in the end zone. Baker just missed him because he got rushed and the ball fell just short. I mean, Godwin was wide open. Could have had an easy touchdown. Evans got back involved, 449, but did have 10 targets. So, I talked about alpha, but it was more so the matchup. Godwin was the better matchup versus this Detroit Lions defense. And especially talking about the pass rush and an outlet for Baker Mayfield. He kind of showed that throughout the week. When he needed a play, he often went to Chris Godwin over the middle, and Chris Godwin did make a couple of big plays for them down the stretch. Ultimately, though, offense couldn't do much of anything, and the story really is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was balling. Like, they had no running game. Didn't really expect them to after Montgomery went out. We know that Gibbs wasn't playing. Craig Reynolds did what he could, but it was really just Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the question, Ray, is what do you do with Jamison Williams? Because now he's back. He scored his touchdown. He did what he does. He caught that long bomb, first-round draft capital. What do you ship him off for a second-round pick? Can't do it, right?
Nah, man, I got a hold of J-Mo. I'm not going to sit in front of
Can't do it, right?
I got a hold of J-Mo.
But that buy window is wide open.
Yeah. I mean, I bought J-Mo in the league. I bought J-Mo in the league a week ago. He didn't do anything, and I got him his best ball. So I'm not shipping him off for a second. I'll still rock with J-Mo. Let him get in the offense. I do think he'll be a factor. Is he going to be Amon-Ra? Is he going to challenge for the wide receiver 1 spot? No, not happening. Is he going to pull targets away from Sam Laporta? No, not happening. What he needs to do is just convert on the targets that he gets. And he did convert. He was 2 for 3, 50-something yards, touchdown. That's what I want from J-Mo. If he could do that, fine by me. Fine by me. Open things up for Sam Laporta. Open things up for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jay, we're going to close this one out talking about the Sunday night game that I lost a lot of money on this game. I had Buffalo laddered from like 13.5 up to like 17.5. It's like all plus EV. I'm posting slip. Laddered the Bills. They're going to beat them by 100 points. And Buffalo damn near lost this game. Buffalo probably should have lost this game, Jay. It came down to an untimed single possession at the 2-yard line, 1-yard line. And
there was PI on that play too.
Here's the thing. They ain't gonna call that. Both players got physical. We can't do this. I saw Eric Crocker talking about this. We want the refs to stay out of it. Don't determine finishes. Waller was physical with Johnson. Johnson was physical with Waller. Was it a PI? Sure, but we're not calling that at that point. We just gave you one down here. We're not going to give you another one. So the Giants, I don't know if they played well or Buffalo played awful, but this is a thing with Buffalo, man. They feel like they rise or fall to the level of their opponent.
They have one player, right?
Talk
they
about
got one
it,
player.
Man.
It's Stephon Diggs, man. It's just Stephon Diggs. And Ray, this is the biggest problem with the Bills. They don't have weapons. Like, it just doesn't exist for them. Josh Allen, he was fine, right? Like, he should have been way better. He got hurt. That's a factor as well. But like, they have one guy. It's Stephon Diggs. He had 16 targets. Josh Allen only threw the ball 30 times. So he had a 50% target share. They only have one guy, and if he doesn't do it all, they barely win games. It's a big problem for the Bills right now. And you can't trust them. Like, if you're betting on the Bills, man, I just don't even know what to do anymore. James Cook, 14 for 71. Latavius Murray, 12 for 45. Running game was okay. But I mean, Josh Allen,
Lat
169 yards.
I mean,
Josh Allen only
had 2 carries, man. Only 2 rush attempts. 2 rush.
They got one player. It's Diggs.
It's concerning, man. Gabe Davis fumbled the ball in the game.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs did his thing, like you said, 16 targets. I don't know, Jay. They just don't feel. They don't feel like a true contender to me. They just don't. They do not. They don't feel like they're better than Miami. You can say what you want about Kansas City and their struggles. They don't feel like they're better than Kansas City. I don't know. Maybe they need somebody else. I mean, isn't this why they drafted Dalton Kincaid? Isn't he supposed to be the slot receiver? The hell is going on? I know he was injured. He didn't play in this matchup, but this is a rough look from Buffalo. Now they got the win. A win is a win. You got to win at the end of the day. They are now 4-2 on the season, and the Giants fall to 1-4 or 1-5, whatever they are. 1-5. Giants side of the ball. Let's go to Tyrod Taylor. I thought he played fine. I thought Tyrod Taylor coming in on the road in this matchup Sunday night with this team, with this offensive line. They signed Justin Pugh off of the street, and they got him in a damn left tackle at some point. I mean, there are a lot of smart people in the football world that say this is the worst offensive line that they've seen from the Giants ever since they've been alive watching football. Like this O-line is not good, Jay. This team is not very good, yet they had Buffalo on the ropes and they let him off the hook. Saquon Barkley came back from his ankle injury.
Great.
And he was phenomenal, right? It started off very slow for him. I know some people, he had like 12 carries for 12 yards at one point in time. And then the next 12 carries, he finishes that thing out with 93 yards. And I'm sure he was pissed. I thought for sure, Jay, final play is just going to hand off to Barkley. Like you give the ball to Saquon.
They did it in the first half, right?
And whatever happens, you just do it. And instead, they throw to Darren Waller, and the pass was high. It was too far. Even if he caught it, I don't think he comes down in bounds and wins the game. I don't know what to really take away from this one. You're firing up Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hyatt had a 40-yard reception called back on a phantom call. Tyrod Taylor, you really don't want to start him. I don't think there's any other receiver you want to start on the Giants outside of Darren Waller. Wan'Dale Robinson does get a lot of targets, right? Wan'Dale,
he was great.
8 for 62. So PPR, you're happy with Wan'Dale Robinson. And then Darren Waller, again, 7 targets, 43 yards. Tight end position is brutal. I don't know what else to say. It looks like Daniel Jones probably is not going to play again, so we get another game of Tyrod Taylor. And this Giants schedule is number 1, most difficult strength of schedule, I believe, in the NFL for the remainder of the season. This is tough. And there's a good chance that there are a lot of teams right now, Jay, vying for a top 5 pick. I mean, the Patriots, the Giants, the Bears, the Cardinals. I mean, this is going to be a rat's race to the finish to get that number 1 coveted pick. I don't really know what else there is to take away from this one. Josh Allen had him as my QB1 on the week, and obviously that did not come to fruition. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. What else do you have from this game, Jay?
Nothing, man. I think, honestly, I was a little bit encouraged by what we saw from the pass catchers and Tyrod Taylor. You know, coming in, what did we expect? The Bills have been one of the best teams against quarterbacks this season, so we really didn't expect a ton from Tyrod Taylor or the pass catchers, and I think we got some pretty solid target consolidation. We saw Slayton had a decent game with 4 for 69. As you mentioned, Wan'Dale Robinson, 8 for 62, and Waller, 5 for 43, and Hyatt even got involved as well. You know, Saquon didn't do anything through the air, but was great on the ground, which is encouraging. So, I mean, both these teams went in the direction they're supposed to go in. The Giants are supposed to lose because they're terrible. They're a top 5 position right now. They're sandwiched between Arizona and New England. And the Bills won a game that they probably didn't deserve to win, but they won the game, so they're fine, and they continue to roll on. So, you know, while Josh Allen is a little bit banged up once again, the Bills were fine, and they got the job done, even if it was really ugly. But the bigger concern really is, can the Bills right the ship for more players than just Stephon Diggs moving forward? And that's the biggest concern for me. The rest of it, you know, the Giants are bad. You can't expect much from them, and you're not really rostering a ton of them anyways because we don't expect much from them throughout the season. It's really the Bills, and can they get Kincaid going? Can Gabe Davis be a thing? And kind of what do we do with those guys moving forward?
Yeah, just a dirty win for the Bills, but they got the dub. They got the win. The Giants fall again. Daboll was clearly very upset at the end of the game.
Pissed.
Just kind of a demoralizing loss. I think that was one of the type of wins that could have helped change the season, at least change the vibe in that Giants locker room. A tough win on the road against Buffalo, against Daboll's former team. And this season is just in the dumps. Daniel Jones, if you drafted him, it's not going to happen.
It's over.
Saquon, you're just fingers crossed that he can stay healthy and just score you some points. Other side of the ball, like you talked about, is Stephon Diggs, it's Josh Allen, and hopefully some of those other players can get it together. There it is, Jay. Went through the whole damn slate. Oh gosh. Oh man.
Did you not see the time?
Oh, do you not see the chat comment right here? Oh
yeah, but he should though. He should get an MRI on his knee.
Oh, I thought it was dude. I thought it was IR. I read that as IR. Oh
no. He's just getting an MRI on his knee, which is pretty standard. It's to check for ligament damage with his MCL meniscus.
Yes, standard. I thought it said IR. That's why I wear glasses. That's why I wear glasses, Jay. I can't see all the time. But we appreciate everybody being in the building. If you stuck around for the full damn near 2 hours of this stream, hit the thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe. This was a good one, Jay. Felt good about this show. It was a dirty week of football. Hopefully, we get some positive regression in week 7 and we get some better quarterback play because overall, it was just an ugly week. And we get the Dallas Cowboys tonight, so we all get a treat to help cleanse your palate from bad football. You get some good football on tonight to watch the Dallas Cowboys beat down the Los Angeles Chargers. Ain't no hope about it, baby. It's a dub. Dallas, I'll say Dallas wins this one by 4 points. I give it 4 points, Dallas. We get the win.
4 points. Wow.
4 points. We get the win. Yeah, we get the point. We get the win. 4 points.
Cover the 3.5?
We'll cover the 3.5. Dallas will win by 4. I think it's going to be a big game from CeeDee Lamb. Tony Pollard's going to have a big game running on this defense. And I think we're going to be able to stymie Justin Herbert in this one. So I feel really good about that. And we'll talk about it on Friday when we tap in. So make sure everybody go subscribe to the podcast feed. Check out all the content on the channel. Go to destinationdevy.com. Articles, tools, rankings, all types of dope stuff. We got Patreon streams. We got Discord streams. We got a bunch of stuff cracking at DD. We appreciate y'all being here. Jay, anything you want to say to people before we get out of here?
No, man, just have a good weekend. I guess go Cowboys. I'll cheer for the Cowboys tonight, Ray, just
Cowboys. For you. There we go. Go Cowboys. Have a great week. Wake y'all asses up on Friday. Breakfast and bets with myself and Mitch Carl on Wednesday. See y'all soon. We out. Peace.